Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Awaken the weakest talent. I rejected the school flower. Chapter 41. Burst at full speed. Chen Ang rushed to the instructor in a few breaths and swung out a claw. Black light suddenly appeared, and the dead dragon arm had been activated at some point. The ferocious dragon arms covered with pitch-black dragon scales, coupled with the constantly blasting air, made this strike seem extraordinary at first glance. Good come. The instructor laughed loudly, without fear, just punched out and came to meet him. But that fist turned into a diamond fist, and the sun shone with light. The fist and the claw collided, and the power exploded. Chen Ang was undoubtedly blasted away by a punch, and it was only after flying 3 or 4 meters away that he was able to stabilize his body with a solemn expression. This instructor is a bit fierce. But that's right, if it's not fierce, how can it be possible to serve as an instructor? Chen Ang grinned, bent over like a cheetah. His eyes were like eagles, as if he had found prey, a beast about to hunt. A whimper. Chen Ang rushed out again. Tear claw. A low voice in my heart. Black light emerged, and the breath of death permeated. Sharp claws struck 3 black lights in midair. The instructor's expression didn't change. He just stared at Chen Ang's dead dragon arm thoughtfully, feeling a little familiar for a while. What kind of talent is this? Too late to think about it. Chen Ang's attack was already in sight. One punch hits, and the diamond shines. Rumbling. Once again, the air waves rolled and dust was thrown up. But at the moment of confrontation, the instructor's expression changed. This tearing claw, proficient. Right. Chen Ang nodded slightly. Hiss. The instructor took a deep breath and looked at Chen Ang like a monster. But at the same time, without any hesitation, a stronger force erupted, and Chen Ang smashed into the air again. The talent has broken through to the 2nd level, and the tearing claw has also been upgraded to the proficient level. How did you do it? The instructor asked, and even he couldn't help but burst into foul language. Ordinary people can actually do this. But it's mainly the time when Chen Ang does this. How long did it take to awaken talent? Moreover, Chen Ang's talent evolution is not an ordinary evolution after activating the characteristics, but an obvious limit evolution. Looking at the clothes on his body, Chen Ang is obviously not a child of a rich family. This is a bit outrageous. Isn't it enough to have a hand? Chen Ang asked a question. Let the instructor almost be stretched. But then he asked with admiration in his eyes. Come on, use all your abilities. Also, what is your talent? Dragon Claw. What the hell? Chen Ang grinned, without words, but attacked again. The body seems to have turned into an afterimage, and it strikes in a fleeting moment. A claw tore out. With all the power bursting out, this blow is full of power. However, the instructor looked astonished at this time, with a hint of surprise. Dragon Claw. Is it the Dragon Claw that I learned about? How is this possible? Although I thought so in my heart, the instructor's hands were not slow. A punch hit, and the collision erupted. Immediately afterwards, the two stopped their hands at the same time and punched again. The touch of dragon scales and diamonds. There seemed to be sparks flying around. The waves erupted. The collision of each blow is like a drum beat. The sound of bang 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 continued. But as the confrontation continued, the expression on the instructor's face became more and more shocked. Your ability? He asked directly. Heard. Chen Ang knew what the instructor was asking and nodded. Yes, evolved characteristics. It was like the instructor was about to nod his head. The next moment he raised his hand sharply. Wait, you wait. He stopped Chen Ang and asked with wide eyes. You mean that after your talent has evolved, even your evolved characteristics have been activated? Yeah, is there any problem? Chen Ang took it for granted. The problem is big. The instructor was shocked. Monster. Absolute monster. Dragon Claw talent itself is difficult to explore. In previous years, there were not many talents who awakened Dragon Claws, but it was not without them. Even if none of them are among the rich family's children, Go is still very powerful among the same rank. Among them, there are also some powerful existences, and they have explored the 2nd characteristic. But in the end, they all fell before the end of evolutionary talent. The reason? Failure to evolve means that it will gradually become out of touch with people at the same stage, and if the strength is not as good, it is even more difficult to obtain materials. Even if he pays the price to obtain the material, his own innate source will be damaged due to a failed attempt, making it difficult to evolve. After all, you must know that evolution medicine is not 100% successful. It's been tried and tested again and again. Ordinary people, who have taken failed evolution potions once or twice, are lucky not to damage their origin. But if you want to evolve, you still have to continue to take it, relying on taking it again and again, to constantly adjust the dose and determine the correctness of the material. And those dragon claw talents, even if they try to evolve, are all things in the university. But people like Chen Ang have not yet reached the college entrance examination, and they have already activated all the features, so they have successfully evolved. Not to mention the success of evolution, but also activated the characteristics after evolution. It even took a while to upgrade the tearing claw skill to proficient. Isn't that what a monster is? Call. The shock in his heart made him take a deep breath and force it down. Then he looked at Chen Ang calmly and said, "You kid, awesome." Chen Ang smiled and asked, "Coach, stop playing. Don't fight, there's no need." The instructor shook his head and smiled. "No wonder you didn't use your talent just now. To be honest, your trump card is very good, and it will definitely be a blockbuster when you leave it for the college entrance examination." No, I just don't think there's any need to push talent to beat them." Chen Ang scratched his head, but still didn't speak his mind. The instructor said again, "Moreover, I also know about your strength and know how to help you formulate a training plan." "Then, shall I go back first?" "Well, let's go." The instructor nodded, not forgetting to remind at the end, "What they do, you do too, don't forget." "Okay, I won't forget it." Chen Ang nodded. Looking at Chen Ang's leaving back, the instructor touched his chin, the corners of his mouth twitched, and there was still a flash of shock in his eyes. Monster, in such a short period of time, he can find out his own evolutionary direction and even his characteristics, which shows that this guy is very good at this. Now, when we wait for the college entrance examination, all colleges will probably have to compete for this guy. The instructor muttered. In my mind I remembered what a captain who came out of college to join the army said when I was in the military. Some people, even if the Awaken talent has no evolutionary direction. But you can still figure it out on your own and keep evolving. Such a person is a natural talent. Even the natural world master. I just don't know if Chen Ang can reach that point. If this guy can really become a world master, I can become his instructor for a lifetime, right? Haha. The instructor smiled, shook his head, and left. The day ends soon. The next day, it's still the second playground. The instructor stood in front of everyone and said, "Except Chen Ang, the rest of you continue to train, each looking for a teammate to play against each other, no talent allowed, for an hour. Have a 5-minute break after an hour, and continue to run 100 laps around the playground. And then 500 push-ups. 500 crunches. Then, Chen Ang, come with me." The instructor waved to Chen Ang and took Chen Ang to an empty playground. Then, the instructor said directly, "I already know about your training plan. For now, you are still a high school student after all, and you haven't been to college yet, so I won't teach you too much. Just teach you the most basic training methods. First of all, it's a battle." "Battle?" Doubt flashed in Chen Ang's eyes. The instructor explained with a smile. "Don't underestimate any basic training methods, including battles. Battle training is not only about improving your combat experience, but more about training your reflexes in actual combat. The stronger your reflexes, the higher your chances of surviving in real battles. And other trainings such as running and push-ups correspond to the improvement of physical attributes. Even ordinary people can use this method to enhance their physique, and naturally talented people can. But the difference is that talented people also need to train with breathing methods to get the best effect." Hearing this, Chen Ang keenly noticed 3 keywords. "Breathing. Yes, breathing," the instructor explained. "A special breathing method, but I can't give it to you. This kind of thing can't be learned by any breathing method. It has to be suitable for one's own talent. And the breathing method is basically derived from the cultivation method of other worlds falling into the secret realm. Then we will improve it, and maybe create a breathing method suitable for the talent and their own cultivation." The instructor also knew a lot of things that Chen Ang didn't understand, so he didn't hesitate to explain it. Actually, breathing is not something you'll get into until you get to college. And in the university, you should also know that there are many teachers who will accept students. Such students, like those masters and apprentices in ancient times, will pass on their inheritance, and the inheritance of those teachers as them. Unique breathing methods, or visualization and skills, etc. I see. Chen Ang's expression suddenly changed, and his heart moved slightly. Think about it, is that the reason? Therefore, the reason why I had a sour feeling in my previous practice of thinking and even meditation was because I had not improved it yet. So I feel sour, because that view is not suitable for talented people, and it is not suitable for my own talent. I definitely can't give you these. Although I have breathing methods and views, they are all from the military, and they are not allowed to spread. But after you go to college, it will be easy to get. The instructor smiled and said, but although I can't teach you anything else, I can give you yoga, which can still be passed on. Yoga. Chen Ang's eyes lit up. The instructor laughed. One of the best training methods for the gifted, without breathing, is through ancient yoga. Although there are only a few simple movements, it is still very difficult to maintain enough time. Anyway, fight me first, and I'll teach you. It is good. There are good things, Chen Ang will naturally not refuse. But Chen Ang asked suspiciously. Why didn't the instructor teach them just now? Their physical fitness is still too weak, and they have to train frantically for a few days before they can improve. Chen Ang understood. Then he stopped talking nonsense, took a deep breath, and fought against the instructor. No talent is used. It's a simple physical encounter. In this regard, Chen Ang is definitely not a match for an instructor from the military. After all, the opponent's experience is much higher than that of Chen Ang, which caused Chen Ang to be beaten almost one-sidedly in the battle. Not without benefits though. At least Chen Ang can draw a lot of combat experience from it, and integrate the fighting skills he learned before, and gradually understand a set of fighting methods that suits him. And including what the instructor said before, training response. It's no joke either, but it is indeed enhanced. Even a trace is a gain. After the battle, it is ancient yoga, said the instructor. This is actually a basic ancient yoga. It is said that there are some ancient yogas that have very powerful effects. If they are matched with appropriate breathing methods, the effect is extraordinary, but I don't have them anymore. You can find them yourself when you have the opportunity. Quote. After speaking, the instructor began to teach. The so-called basic ancient yoga has only 4 movements. But every action, when put out, has a unique charm. And difficult to hold on to. At least when Chen Ang made his first move for a minute, he was sweating profusely. I just felt a sharp pain in my body. In the end, it only lasted for 3 minutes. Yes, the posture is fairly standard. You can actually practice ancient yoga and fight every day. The instructor was satisfied with Chen Ang. You continue, you have to rest for 10 minutes after each practice before you can continue to practice. I'll go to those people first to see. It is good. Chen Ang nodded. No nonsense, but a faint light flashed in his eyes, so that the instructor did not notice. When the instructor leaves, Chen Ang immediately took a deep breath, and after resting, he posed again. At the same time, he lowered his head, looked at his body, and moved in his heart. Really, a prompt popped up in front of you. A special posture can make the organs in the body resonate well, so as to enhance the body, but for you, it can actually be more suitable for you. For example, is it possible that it would be better to move the right hand 2 centimeters to the left? Oh, by the way, the soles of the left and right feet need to be more forceful, and in addition, the forehead needs to be raised more. Looking at the prompt in front of him, Chen Ang was shocked. Hey, is this improving ancient yoga? Chen Ang was excited. Doesn't this mean that if there is a view and breathing method that suits you in the future, you can also improve it through Goldfinger to make it a method that suits you? Tisk, why didn't you think of this when you were cultivating the concept of view? Chen Ang scolded secretly, and hurriedly took out his thoughts to see if it was okay. Really, when the visualization idea is taken out, the prompt really emerges. But the content of the prompt made Chen Ang's face darken. Don't look at it, this thing is not suitable for you no matter how you change it. Have to. Fine. It seems that you still have to find a cultivation method that suits you and improve it. Ancient yoga for Chen Ang. He can feel it. Has a role. Chen Ang can clearly feel the enhancement of his physique after persevering for a day. Not much enhancement though. But know that this is the first day, and it is still basic ancient yoga. If it is more powerful, and there is a suitable breathing method to cooperate, the promotion is probably very terrifying. This also allows Chen Ang to know how high-level talents can quickly enhance their attributes. On this day, the training also ended quickly. As soon as school was over, Chen Ang went home with a backpack. It's a pity, I have to train these days, and I can't go to the secret realm, otherwise I won't be so short of money. Chen Ang muttered. Yes, he is short of money now. Life is fine. The main thing is the lack of money to buy resources. If nothing else, the tearing claw needs materials to quickly increase the proficiency level. But now he definitely can't go to the secret realm, he can only wait for the college entrance examination. Forget it, after the college entrance examination, let's go after the college entrance examination. I heard that there are many secret realms in the university itself. If you want to make money and even obtain materials when you come, it should be very simple. Thinking of this, Chen Ang stopped thinking about it and prepared to make dinner. But this time, dong dong dong, there was a knock on the door. A puzzled look appeared in Chen Ang's eyes. Someone actually came to my house. Weird. Chen Ang was an orphan, and he had no friends before, and he was always alone in the family. Could it be Li Leiyao or Xiao Yiqing? Chen Ang thought for a while, came to the door and opened the door, looking at the figure at the door, showing a look of surprise. It's you. Huh, classmate Chen Ang knows me. No, I saw it once before in Zhexianju. I see. The middle-aged man at the door suddenly realized that he was one of a group of admissions teachers who went to Zhexianju for dinner that night. Hello, my name is Xia Yue, from Capital Wuku Academy. The middle-aged man introduced himself. Hearing this, Chen Ang nodded and stepped aside. Hello Mr. Xia, please come in first. I don't know why you were looking for me. Certainly. Walking into the room, Xia Yue took a closer look at the environment, then sat on a chair and said. Chen Ang should know the reason why I came to Diwan City. Admission. Right. Xia Yue felt the breath emanating from Chen Ang, and the corners of his mouth twitched. To be honest, this time in Diwan City, as far as I see it, the most important thing is you, classmate Chen Ang. Hearing this, Chen Ang's eyes flashed with surprise, but he suddenly said. So, Teacher Xia came to win me over in advance. That's pretty much what it means. After all, I know the talent of classmate Chen Ang. Dragon Claw talent is very strong at the first stage, and strong talent will naturally not be weak after evolution. And before I came, I went to the school to inquire about the situation. To be honest, the news I got shocked me. Saying that, Xia Yue looked deeply at the young man in front of him. When he went to school, he naturally inquired about news from the instructor. In the past, no admissions teacher would do this at all. They all wait until the college entrance examination to win over. But this time he couldn't help it. Chen Ang's talent is amazing. The performance of a poor orphan is almost as amazing as that of the arrogant demon. This kind of talent must be brought to the Wuku Academy. Our students from Wuku College, Chen Ang, should know that it is definitely the top university, and it has also been the university with the best grades in recent years. Besides, there are teachers with various talents in the academy. It can be said that the teachers are powerful, and they are equipped with 5 different secret realms. How do you want to think about it, Chen Ang? Hearing this, Chen Ang did not refuse. But he didn't agree immediately. Instead, he touched his chin and thought about it for a moment before asking a key question. Actually, I don't care which university I go to, I just want to know what I can get when I go there. Xia Yue answered directly without any hesitation. Our Wuku Academy has the most abundant collection of materials, resources, and martial arts treasures. As long as Chen Ang comes to our Wuku Academy, they can directly enter and choose one of them. Besides, as long as Chen Ang is willing, any teacher in the college can accept you as a student. Of course, in fact, I think that Chen Ang's own talent can easily do this. At the same time, we have a scholarship, 1 million. There are other benefits, which need to be discussed in detail. What do you think? Gee, I feel very moved, but Chen Ang certainly couldn't agree all at once. I can only pretend to think, and then say, can I think about it? Sure. Xia Yue nodded with a smile, got up and said, But I hope that Chen Ang will choose our Wuku Academy in the end. After all, only the Wuku Academy is the most suitable choice for you, trust me. Done. Sha Yuwei left on the grounds of not being disturbed. Chen Ang sat alone in the chair, thinking to himself. Wuku Academy, tisk, I almost agreed without hesitation, but I'll talk about it after the college entrance examination. I'm not in a hurry now. Shaking his head, Chen Ang continued to prepare dinner. After dinner, we started to continue the training of ancient yoga. Time flies. Before you know it, the college entrance examination is approaching. Also the day before the college entrance examination, the specific news of the college entrance examination was notified by the head teacher. In classrooms, the head teacher stood on the podium and said seriously, "Everyone, tomorrow is the time for the college entrance examination, and the specific situation of the college entrance examination has come down. The college entrance examination for talented people includes the literary test and the martial arts test, which means that you are very clear. But what we want to talk about is the martial arts test, and the location of the martial arts test is in a large secret realm that has been cleaned up for a week. During the period, you need to get points by killing beasts and finding special items. The more points, the better the performance," the head teacher said seriously. "This exam is very important, but after the martial arts exam, there is another talent and skill test, which is also very important. So, don't slack off after completing the secret realm, take a good rest, and meet the final test. Because the location of the college entrance examination is not in Diwan City, everyone will come to the school early tomorrow. At that time, you will be sent to the school through the teleportation array, so don't be late." After speaking, the head teacher waved his hand. "Get out of class." Chen Ang sits in the back row by the window, which is the exclusive seat of the so-called king's hometown. Looking at the setting sun sky outside the window, he couldn't help but raise the corners of his mouth, revealing a hint of anticipation. The college entrance examination, it's finally coming. Literary and martial arts. One more test. Secret realm, it's also a good place to kill people. The next morning, the college entrance examination is coming. Chen Ang got up early and went straight to school after breakfast. When they came to the school, the students had already gathered on the number 1 playground. Some ordinary students who were still in the class looked from the window with unconcealed envy in their eyes. "Chen Ang, come quickly. You are so slow." As soon as they came to the playground, 2 voices came. There is no doubt that it is Li Leiyao and Xiao Yiqing. And with the sound of these 2 voices, there are 2 malicious eyes watching over. Chen Ang walked away indifferently, shaking his head helplessly. "It's only 7:30, am I early enough? Everyone is here, you are the latest, where is it early?" Li Leiyao rolled her eyes. Xiao Yiqing nodded in agreement. Chen Ang could only shrug. When Chen Ang came, the head teacher spoke up. "Okay, everyone is ready, someone will teleport you next." Done. A middle-aged man walked out from behind the head teacher and gave the students a gentle smile. "If it's teleportation, I remember it as a very powerful talent," Xiao Yiqing whispered in Chen Ang's ear. Hearing this, Chen Ang nodded. "The teleportation is okay, but I'm afraid it's a formation talent, that's more fierce." Formation talent is there. A variety of materials and resources can be used to arrange corresponding arrays. But this talent, more sophisticated knowledge, and rare. I heard that there is also an enchantment talent, which is similar to the formation talent. In short, there are too many strange talents in this world. The talents known now may be less than 1/10 of all talents. Between words, the middle-aged man raised his right hand and smiled. "Everyone, get ready, it's time to start teleporting." After he finished speaking, a dazzling blue light burst into the sky from the palm of his hand, and directly transformed into a formation, shrouding all the students, including the head teacher. Immediately afterwards, a sense of dizziness struck as if entering the secret realm. The abdomen rolls. Intense nausea hits the brain. Makes you vomit. But Chen Ang still forcibly endured it. After a while, the surrounding environment changed. And there was a loud noise. Chen Ang raised his head and looked around, his eyes couldn't help showing shock. Is this the location of the secret realm of the college entrance examination? Are those other students? The surroundings are already in a wilderness, and in front of them is a secret entrance. In addition, there are many students around. In the distance, there are many soldiers patrolling and guarding. Vaguely, Chen Ang can still feel a strong aura in some places. It should be some powerful talents who specially guard the students here. In addition to their school, talented students from other schools and other cities gather here to prepare for the college entrance examination. The college entrance examination is about to start. All got a smartwatch, which appears to be used to automatically record scores. At the same time, some people announce the specific rules of the college entrance examination. First, martial arts test. The main purpose is to score points. As for the source of points, in addition to hunting beasts, there are also special items that special personnel put into the secret realm. Among them, the First Order Fierce Beast has 10 points. Second Order Vicious Beast, 50 points. Tier 3 Beasts, 500 points. If it is 4th Order, it will directly earn 5,000 points. The special items placed are also 5,000 points. I'm afraid no one can hunt the 4th Order beasts, so the main source of points is probably those special items. Chen Ang touched his chin and muttered to himself. Okay, everyone should know the rules. Next, the college entrance examination will begin. All students, start lining up to enter the secret realm. A teacher shouted to all the students. After that, he started to enter the secret realm. The head teacher stood beside the students and whispered, "If you meet in the secret realm, remember to help each other, understand?" "Don't worry, teacher." "No," the students responded. Chen Ang looked at the other students curiously. From time to time, there is also an unexpected look in his eyes, and he perceives a few breaths that are not weak. Soon, it was Chen Ang and others' turn to enter the secret realm. Xiao Yiqing said with a smile, "When we meet, you can't ignore me." Hearing this, Chen Ang was out of breath. "Why does it sound like I have a heartbroken feeling? I can if you want." "No, I can't," Chen Ang pouted. "The words are behind, step up and step into the secret realm." A faint sense of dizziness struck. When he opened his eyes again, Chen Ang looked up and looked around. Tall trees rose from the ground. Looking around, he was in the middle of an ancient forbidden forest, so lush that no sunlight could penetrate it. I can't hear the chirping of insects and birds, and the only thing I can hear is silence. This secret realm is unusual. This is Chen Ang's first impression. According to what the teacher said yesterday, it is a large-scale secret area that has been specially cleaned up. That is to say, the powerful beasts in this secret realm have been eliminated, so what about the materials? Chen Ang was curious, and even his eyes brightened. If the material is not collected, then Chen Ang began to look forward to it. Grinning with an excited smile, Chen Ang's heart moved as he looked around. Prompts began to appear. In this direction, there is a 4th Order magic horned rhinoceros resting. If you don't want to die, it is recommended to change direction. Wow, you are lucky. There is a goblin tribe here, but they are very weak, and the tribe has the bone dust and healing fruit you need. A ruin, but there is nothing in it. There are 2 fierce beasts fighting for each other here, and at the same time there is a book of ideas buried in the soil under their feet. Looking at the prompt in front of him, Chen Ang's expression was already excited. Hey, as expected of a large-scale secret realm, there are so many good things in it. Without any hesitation, Chen Ang locked the direction. Goblin tribe. Bone dust is the material required for the evolution of the dead dragon arm. And the healing fruit, he also needs it. This is one of the materials of the restored body. Therefore, Chen Ang quickly ran towards that direction. At the same time, in the secret realm, somewhere, after the 2 students teleported in, they looked at each other, then immediately began to separate their wrists, spilling blood on the ground, forming a blood-colored formation, and then began to arrange a lot of materials. After everything was completed, the 2 students took out their daggers and stood in the formation with fanatical expressions in their eyes, inserted them directly into their necks, and then pulled them out. They turned into icy corpses and fell slowly. Blood kept pouring out. The formation exudes a blood-colored light. Kung Fu in a short while. 2 figures slowly emerged in the formation, a man and a woman, dressed in blood robes. Giggle, the guys from the Wangxing Tower, and the 2 students ordered by the priest. This time, they can all be solved at one time. If it wasn't for them last time, we would have solved one. But it doesn't matter, it's not because of them, we can't find the secret, can we? Meanwhile, somewhere, a student teleported in, and after waving his hand, his clothes instantly turned into a starry robe, and a staff appeared in his right hand. The college entrance examination. In order to sneak in and waste so many precious things of me, I hope this plan will succeed. Out of secrecy. Inside a tall tower building. There is a huge energy screen here. On the screen is the situation of each candidate, allowing people to know everything in the secret realm at any time. At the same time, in front of the screen, there are 3 figures emitting a powerful breath standing here. One of the figures sneered. Blood sect, Wangsing Pagoda, it's not bad, at least it attracted some people. The others frowned. The guys from these 2 forces are very strong. If they really want to kill them, I am afraid that those candidates will be easily wiped out, right? Will it be too much if we do this? Yes, no, no. The last person shook his head and said solemnly. It's just to sharpen them like this. It's not like you don't know what's going on with us now. It takes enough talent to stand up. The environment in the past was too mild, and there were no good seedlings among the freshmen in recent years. Without the use of thunder, how do the flowers in these greenhouses grow? We talented people, like practitioners in other worlds, want Bao Jianfeng to be sharpened. If this is considered dangerous now, then wait for them to go to the cracks in the future. On the battlefield, wouldn't you die when you go? And we're not without safeguards, are we? Heard. The other 2 nodded slightly, stopped talking nonsense, and stared at the screen. Everything above is within their grasp. Inside the secret. Huchi. Running all the way, the surrounding scenery kept passing by Chen Ang's side. Soon, Chen Ang arrived at his destination. Pushing aside the grass, a humble-looking tribe appeared in Chen Ang's field of vision. That's a goblin. That's disgusting. Looking at the small green figures in the tribe, Chen Ang couldn't help frowning and muttering, with disgust flashing in his eyes. Goblins. One of the races of the otherworld. As expected of a large-scale secret realm, I am afraid that many lives from other worlds have fallen in this secret realm, and goblins are only one of them. After feeling it for a while, Chen Ang probably understood the strength of the goblins. Very weak. Most goblins don't have first order, so they are stronger than ordinary people. There are 2 goblins, both of which are first order. No threat, you can do it. With a murmur, Chen Ang made a decision. Immediately got up, stepped out, swooped away like a cheetah, stared at a goblin, attacked at an extremely fast speed, and punched out. He didn't use his talent, but even so, with Chen Ang's powerful burst of power, he banged his head with a bang. The green viscous blood splattered suddenly. It looks disgusting. Chen Ang felt a little uncomfortable. Asterisk 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 asterisk, asterisk asterisk, asterisk asterisk. This scene naturally alarmed the other goblins, who waved their weapons and made angry voices towards Chen Ang. Unfortunately, Chen Ang couldn't understand what these green goblins were saying. Shut up, it's noisy. Chen Ang took 1 step forward, rushed to a goblin and punched it, killing it. Such a scene even angered those goblins. There were about 20 or 30 heads, and they came to kill Chen Ang. Chen Ang sneered, his right arm turned into a dead dragon arm, and the breath of death permeated. Tear claw. With a low groan, Chen Ang swung his paw. A claw-shaped black light filled the air and swept away. In an instant, 4 or 5 goblins were torn apart, and blood spattered on the ground. Such a scene made the goblins who were already bullying the soft and afraid of the hard come back to their senses, showing a look of fear, and they did not dare to attack for a while. But right now, roar! A roar sounded. In the tent of the tribe in the distance, 2 burly goblins came out. The 2 strongest goblins in the tribe. Under this roar, the other goblins raised their courage and attacked again. Unfortunately, these goblins were like thin paper in front of Chen Ang. Once they got close, they were easily torn to shreds. Tread tap. The 2 powerful goblins also attacked Chen Ang at this moment. They wield mace full of fangs, trying to kill Chen Ang to avenge the goblins of their tribe. Facing the attack on the left and right sides, Chen Ang's mouth twitched and he sneered. Act recklessly. Tearing claw. Skill burst. Chen Ang's dragon claws were swayed, and with a click, a goblin warrior's mace was easily torn apart, and the dragon claws even fell on his head. The powerful power ripped its head to pieces and died on the spot. Then Chen Ang still had time to avoid the attack of the other goblin. After dodging, Chen Ang also attacked again, killing intent erupted. This battle can be said to be crushing. One-sided crushing. About 30 goblin tribes, in less than 10 minutes, quieted down. Looking around, there are corpses all over the place. The only one standing was Chen Ang. And there was not the slightest wound on his body. It's really weak, but it's disgusting enough. Chen Ang frowned. He quickly took out the water resources he had put in from the space ring, and washed the green blood on his dragon claws. Then, Chen Ang lifted his foot and walked towards the tribe. After some searching, after a while, Chen Ang found what he wanted. 2 grams of shining white dust, and a green fruit. Yes, but unfortunately the number is not enough, and the dust of bones still needs 5 grams. Chen Ang murmured, put it away, and left the tribe. After taking a few steps, Chen Ang continued to look around in different directions. Don't look at it, the rusting magic horned rhino hasn't woken up yet. Once you pass by, there is a high probability of waking the other party up. Wow, this direction is very good, there is a heavenly spirit fruit. The area with strong yin qi has undead creatures and ancient weapons. Heavenly spirit fruit and ancient weapons. Chen Ang's eyes lit up. Heavenly spirit fruit is a kind of heavenly material and earthly treasure. The effect is similar to that of enlightenment fruit. Able to enter into a state of epiphany. Of course, the heavenly spirit fruit is definitely not as powerful as the enlightenment fruit. It can only be said that if a person has sufficient comprehension, then it is possible to enter into an epiphany by taking the heavenly spirit fruit. If your understanding is not enough, you will definitely not be able to enter the state of epiphany. Yes, Tianlingguo is such a treasure of heaven and earth. But even so, it is very precious. And like the enlightenment fruit, it is very rare. Tisk tisk, my luck is really good, and ancient weapons are also what I need. Grinning with an excited smile, Chen Ang took the lead in the direction of Tianlingguo. After running, Chen Ang quickly arrived at his destination. At a glance, I noticed a heavenly spirit fruit that seemed to be borrowed from a small sapling. The shape is like an autumn pear, the color is like a rainbow, and it is extremely beautiful. In terms of appearance alone, it makes people salivate and want to swallow it. Perhaps it was the special breath of Tianlingguo. When Chen Ang first arrived, there was a sound of breaking the air. Immediately afterwards, a giant python attacked, opening its bloody mouth to swallow Chen Ang in one bite. But Chen Ang was also prepared. Besides Tianxi Bao, there will be dangers. With a sneer, Chen Ang turned his right arm into a dead dragon's arm, grabbed the python's neck in an instant, and slammed it on the ground with a slammed shoulder, smashing the ground into a deep pit. The giant python made a painful neighing sound. Die! Chen Ang shouted, raised his right hand, and the dragon claw clenched his fist and blasted it out. Rumbling. A powerful burst of power. The ground shook slightly. When Chen Ang raised his fist, the python's head was smashed to pieces and died immediately. But then Chen Ang couldn't help but smile. A poisonous fang is not bad. Regardless of the disgusting red and white things, Chen Ang picked up a purple giant python fang from it. This is a material, and the price is not low, 2,000 yuan. It is nothing to the rich, but to Chen Ang, it is still very valuable. After putting away the poisonous fangs, Chen Ang got up and walked to the heavenly spirit fruit and plucked it off. Holding the heavenly spirit fruit, Chen Ang frowned before he could take a closer look. Tisk, it's here again, it's really troublesome. So, can I ask you to leave? Having said that, Chen Ang turned around and looked behind him. A figure came slowly. There is no doubt that it is a one-time candidate, but Chen Ang does not know it, it should be from another city. With a slender body and a handsome appearance, he stared at the heavenly spirit fruit in Chen Ang's hand, with greed in his eyes, and threatened. Put this thing down and get out of here, I don't have to kill you. Between words, he pulled out a tachi from his waist, and with a hum, hot flames covered the blade. Talent, with inflammation. Not only is the blade covered, even half of its body seems to be covered with a layer of flame armor. But, who gave you the courage? Chen Ang was puzzled. He could perceive that the person in front of him was a first-order talent, not yet second-order. In this regard, the visitor already saw that Chen Ang did not want to give up the heavenly spirit fruit, and immediately sneered. I don't know whether to live or die. If you can't get out, then just die. Done. He stopped talking nonsense, suddenly attacked, slashed out with a knife, shrouded in flames, and struck a powerful blow. But the next moment, Chen Ang raised his hand, and the dragon claws suddenly grabbed the blade, making it motionless and unable to move forward. Even the fiery flames covered it only made Chen Ang frown slightly, and it couldn't break the dragon scales. Seeing this scene, the boy's eyes widened, showing a shocked look. How can that be? Why not? A look of disdain flashed in Chen Ang's eyes, and with a burst of power, with a sound of clang, the sword was thrown into the air. Immediately afterwards, it turned into a dragon's claw sword and stabbed straight out. The swift speed almost made the man unresponsive, and Chen Ang's attack had already arrived. Puff! The sharp five-fingered dragon claws pierced the man's abdomen impressively. In an instant, the man's face turned pale. Puff! Another voice sounded. Chen Ang withdrew the dragon's claw and kicked it out, directly kicking the man flying and falling into the distance. There was a look of horror on his face, as if he knew that he could not be Chen Ang's opponent at all, so he clutched his stomach and begged in fear. No, don't kill me. Before killing, you should be prepared to be killed, right? Chen Ang said flatly. The voice fell, and Chen Ang's figure disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already beside the man. If you want to kill me, then you will also die for me, die. He roared, like a counterattack before death, and slammed his fist, covering the fiery flames and bombarded it. The expression on Chen Ang's face did not change, but the dragon claws were waving. With a puff, the arm broke. Before the screams could be heard, Chen Ang waved again. 3 sharp bloodstains appeared on the man's neck, causing him to stare at Chen Ang with wide eyes, slowly losing his vitality. College entrance examination venue. For ordinary people, such fighting is forbidden. But for the gifted, there are no rules. To live to the end is the winner. But generally, no one does. But for Chen Ang, if others want to kill him, he will kill him as long as he has the chance. It's a pity, I don't even have a space bag, and I'm poorer than me. Chen Ang shook his head, waved his dragon claw to shake off the blood on it, and turned to leave. Not surprisingly, the corpse will be used as food by the beast and swallowed into the stomach until it is excreted as feces after a period of time, and then returned to dust. Died in the hands of Chen Ang, but Chen Ang didn't even bother to know the name of the other party, which is a kind of sadness. Running all the way, Chen Ang quickly found an ancient tree that was huge enough, waved his dragon claws to cut a hole in the tree, walked in, and took out the heavenly spirit fruit. If I can enter the epiphany state, I should be able to improve the proficiency of the tearing claw again. Chen Ang thought to himself. Although normally speaking, tearing the claw to improve the proficiency requires various resources to allocate medicinal soup to assist. But you must know that skills are skills after all. If you have enough understanding, you can do it without the need for material resources. Otherwise, Chen Ang would not have learned to tear his claws instantly because of the remnant leaves of enlightenment. Really, when Chen Ang took out the heavenly spirit fruit and swallowed it. After a while, Chen Ang felt that he had entered a mysterious state. He subconsciously waved his dragon claw and displayed his tearing claw. The sound of breaking the air ripped apart and exploded in the tree hole. In just a short while, Chen Ang's understanding of the tearing claw skyrocketed. Out of secrecy, in front of the big screen. The 3 figures noticed Chen Ang just now, and their eyes showed admiration. Yes, he is decisive, and he is a good seedling. What is this talent? It's a little strange. It should not belong to the talent recorded in the book. It seems that this student should have been promoted to the 2nd rank, which means that his talent may be a new talent. You can adjust the file later to find out. Tisk tisk. In any case, I am very good to this student, and what he said is very reasonable. Before killing others, you must be prepared to be killed. Follow me. In the tree hole. An hour later, Chen Ang opened his eyes flashed with excitement, and the dead dragon's arm emerged, waving a claw. A whirring sound rang out. The air twist is torn apart. A terrifying force burst with the breath of death, causing 3 black lights to appear in the air. Then there was a bang. The huge ancient tree was torn apart from the inside and collapsed directly, causing bursts of dust. Is this the perfect tearing claw? It's really powerful. Chen Ang grinned, showing an excited smile. With the heavenly spirit fruit, his tearing claw proficiency level has finally been raised again. Today's tearing claw can bring twice the increase in strength. Chen Ang's own attributes are very powerful, Coupled with the passiveness of the dragon muscles, the explosive power brought by the superposition is absolutely extraordinary. But, Chen Ang frowned suddenly, looked up at the top of his head, and murmured in his heart. Just now, there seems to be a sense of peeping. Not quite sure though, but Chen Ang felt that someone should be watching him. In other words, spy on all the candidates. It's just that other candidates couldn't notice it, and Chen Ang himself only noticed it because of the epiphany state just now. It should be official, right? Chen Ang thought, this is the only answer. Shaking his head, Chen Ang got up and left, not thinking of staying any longer. After choosing a direction, Chen Ang flew up and headed towards the undead zone where the ancient weapon was found earlier. After a while, Chen Ang arrived. Passing through the forest, a dark place appeared in front of him. Whether it is the soil, or the buildings in this area, or the sky in this area, they are all shrouded in darkness. The rich yin qi covered everything and looked strange. Although there are many undead creatures in the area with strong yin, but for you, it will not pose too much threat. After taking a look with Goldfinger, Chen Ang felt relieved and stepped into it, looking for ancient weapons. However, as soon as I stepped in, the sound of kacha kacha sounded. The ground in front of him cracked, and white bones and arms crawled out. It was a head of skeleton soldiers, there were a lot of them, about a dozen. But Chen Ang looked indifferent. When these skeleton soldiers just climbed out, they turned into a claw and waved. With a puff, black light emerged and attacked. In an instant, the heads of all the skeleton soldiers shattered and died on the spot. Unfortunately, it's all first order. Chen Ang thought to himself. This is the college entrance examination room after all. The main purpose is to pass the college entrance examination. So Chen Ang still wants to meet some powerful enemies to get points. Correct. Speaking of points, Chen Ang suddenly remembered something, and quickly looked at the watch in his hand. After pressing a button, a list appeared. This is one of the functions of the watch, providing a list that allows everyone to view their own points, as well as other people's points, and the ranking on the total points at any time. Chen Ang saw his ranking. 145. Very low, but it's also normal. After all, Chen Ang hasn't hunted wild beasts very much yet. Looking up, Chen Ang looked at the names of those at the top of the list. 1. DK City Tongxi, points, 478. 2. Dekuicheng Fu Zhesheng, points, 455. 3. Diling City, LV Yang, points, 441. 4. Dewei City, Zhongshui, points, 431. 5. Disheng City, Qi Shousheng, points, 430. The gap between the top 5 is very small. Almost constantly changing. After Chen Ang glanced at it, there was a look of contemplation in his eyes. There are 2 of the top 5 Dekuicheng, is it worthy of being the capital? Sweeping down again, Chen Ang discovered that in the top 10, there are almost 5 in Dekuicheng. And Decate is the capital. It can only be said that it is worthy of being the capital. As for Chen Ang himself, he was in no hurry. It's only the first day after all. Shaking his head, Chen Ang moved on after closing the list. After a while, Chen Ang found his goal. On the dark soil, a rusty long gun was inserted there. It was said to be a long gun, but strictly speaking, it should be a flag gun, and there was a red and broken flag under the gun head. Only when Chen Ang was about to approach, the ground cracked. Immediately afterwards, a black hand stretched out suddenly, grabbing the flag gun, and then a figure slowly crawled out from the soil, exuding a powerful aura. Feeling this breath, Chen Ang's eyes suddenly flickered. Tier 3. Yes, there was a third-order undead creature in front of him. It looks like it is a skeleton soldier, but the exterior is wrapped in a set of dark armor. Roar. At this moment, the skeleton spearman let out a deafening roar at Chen Ang, and then waved the flag spear, with a dark aura entwined around the spear, charging like a poisonous dragon drill. Good come. The corners of Chen Ang's mouth twitched, not afraid at all, and even wanted to move. His arms shook, a burst of breath, and then Chen Ang stepped out, showing the dead dragon arm, waving the dragon claws to meet him. Tear claw. With a low voice, the voice fell. Rumbling. Claw and flag gun clash. The waves erupted. A click. Chen Ang's dragon scales actually cracked open, and blood filled the air, which made Chen Ang's eyes flash with a look of astonishment. But then, Chen Ang just grinned. Good power, but... Roll. Under the violent drink, the power erupted. In an instant, Chen Ang bounced off the flag gun, causing the skeleton gunman to stumble back a few steps. This opportunity was seized by Chen Ang. In an instant, a terrifying speed erupted, and it suddenly rushed to the front of the skeleton spearman, and the dragon claws waved again. Roar! The skeleton lancer roared, trying to fight back. But Chen Ang's attack speed was even faster, and it had already fallen, hitting the helmeted head of the skeleton lancer. Chen Ang showed no mercy for this blow. All the power converged on the dragon's claw and erupted. At the moment when the tearing claws fell, the Skull Lancer's helmet shattered, and Chen Ang's dragon claws were further torn on the Skull Lancer's head, and the terrifying force also tore his head. A click. Roar. An unwilling roar sounded, but the head of the skeleton lancer couldn't stop shattering, and finally shattered and fell to the ground. The fire of the soul that flickered in it also slowly dissipated and died. At the same time, on Chen Ang's dragon claws, the hole previously opened by the skeleton spearman healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. There is no surprise to Chen Ang, because this is the characteristic of the dead dragon arm he activated earlier. Steal your life. When attacking an enemy, steal the enemy's life and restore your own damage. A very powerful trait in combat. However, Chen Ang didn't care about these, but looked at the flag gun in the hand of the skeleton soldier, took it and waved it in his hand. A cracking sound rang out. Holding the flag gun in his hand and the dragon arm on his right arm, Chen Ang seemed to have to say at this moment, very domineering and heroic. When the list is opened, it can be seen that Chen Ang's name ranks first. 1. Diwen City, Chen Ang, points, 810. Chen Ang from Diwen City. I haven't heard of it, but it's the first. It's not easy. Looking at the points, it should be that a third-order beast was just killed. Tisk tisk, it's interesting. I remember that Diwen City can be said to be a small town. There is such a guy who can kill the third order, which means that the talent must evolve into the second order, and it should be the limit evolution. HMPH, it's just a nameless person. Now he has won the first place, and he will give it to me later. The first seat, I'll give you a seat first. Looking at the name of Chen Ang who suddenly climbed to the top. In the secret realm, many candidates whispered to themselves. Some sneer, some were surprised, some are happy. Some are also curious. In this regard, Chen Ang naturally did not know, nor did he care. At this time, Chen Ang was putting away the ancient weapon, and then squatting beside the corpse of the skeleton lancer looking for it. Sure enough, I found it. I didn't expect it to be hidden in such a deep place. Chen Ang muttered in his mouth and took out a precious material from the skull of the skull wall. Soul beads. The price is around 10,000 yuan. It's very expensive, so Chen Ang couldn't help but be overjoyed. Put away the soul beads, Chen Ang is about to leave here. But at this time, Chen Ang seemed to notice something, and suddenly looked up at the sky in the distance. Swish! A white light appeared out of thin air and shot straight into the sky. At the same time, the watch vibrated. The first special item has appeared. Special items. Seeing the prompt on the watch, Chen Ang looked surprised. I didn't expect the appearance of special items to be so fancy. This distance, whether it's far or not, but I want it. There was a slight smile on the corner of his mouth, Chen Ang murmured with confidence. Immediately, he stopped staying here and went straight to the direction of the beam of light. A special item, but 5,000 points, naturally cannot be missed. In addition to Chen Ang, other candidates in this area also saw the beam of light, and they were stunned for a while, and then they went straight away with excitement. There is no doubt that a melee is about to begin. When Chen Ang burst out at full speed, it was like a rainbow light that went away. About 2 hours later, Chen Ang arrived at the place. There are already 5 figures standing still here. And among them, is an unexpected treasure of heaven and earth. Zhu Guo. A vermilion fruit will greatly increase your physical attributes after taking it. There was a sign on the tree. Obviously, treasures of heaven, materials and earth are an incidental harvest, and that brand is a special item. Seeing Chen Ang's arrival, 5 eyes fell on him one after another, and then a young man raised an impatient look and said directly. Really, there is another person here. If you don't want to die, get out of here. As he spoke, a breath burst out from his body. Is second order. The other person next to him also laughed. Brother, get out of here, the owner of this special item is only among us. If you leave early, if you leave late, you may die. Heard. Chen Ang's mouth twitched, his eyes swept across the 5 people in front of him, strong and weak. They are all second order, but they should not be extreme evolution. No, you are wrong. Chen Ang took a step forward, grinning and sneering. It's you who should get out, not me, understand? Hearing this, the young man who spoke first looked at Chen Ang with murderous intent. I don't know whether to live or die. If you want to die, I will fulfill you. After he finished speaking, he stepped out, like an afterimage. It's a talent for speed. But after evolution, it should be called super speed. Almost a face-to-face, the other party came to Chen Ang and threw a punch. The killing intent showed no mercy at all. Seeing this, Chen Ang turned his head indifferently. The punch brushed past his ear. How is this possible? The boy's eyes widened, showing shock, as if he didn't expect Chen Ang to dodge his attack so easily. But the next moment, Chen Ang opened his mouth, his right arm turned into a dragon claw to make a fist, and he punched out. A terrifying speed erupted like a dunk, falling on the boy's head. The violent power was released, and with a bang, the young man's mind split open and died on the spot. The red and white things sputtered, and some of them fell on Chen Ang, making Chen Ang look like a devil at the moment, full of bloody aura. Such a scene immediately caused the other 4 to show shock. Luo Shang actually died like this. This person, so strong. How to do? I suggest going together. After someone said the last sentence, 4 eyes turned to Chen Ang, revealing killing intent. They planned to shoot Chen Ang together. Chen Ang naturally noticed this, and without the slightest fear, he twisted his neck and sneered. If you're ready to be killed, come on. The sound fell. Swish. Chen Ang disappeared. In an instant, someone's complexion suddenly changed and he turned back suddenly. Roll. He roared, his body changed, covered with metallic luster, like an Iron Man. And behind him, Chen Ang didn't know when he appeared and punched out. Boom. The Iron Man boy was blown away by a punch, blood vomited from his mouth, his expression was extremely pale, and he fell heavily into the distance. Let's go together, don't waste time. Another person roared. Although shocked, he did not retreat. His eyes were fixed on Chen Ang, and his pupils shimmered. Immediately afterwards, Chen Ang felt that there was a restraint on his body and it was difficult to move. This is mind power. Chen Ang guessed this talent in his heart. At the moment of being imprisoned, the other 2 also shot, one left and one right besieged. Play the wind. Electric light. This is the talent of those 2. One person clenched his fist and bombarded, and the fist was wrapped in a gust of wind. One person turned into an electric light and struck. They have exerted all their strength, holding the heart of mortal death. But at the moment of getting close to Chen Ang, roll, Chen Ang grinned and roared. The power in the body exploded, and the thought power that was imprisoned on the body was directly opened, and then the dragon claws waved. Tear claws. Puff. What? A shrill scream rang out. Not to mention the gust of wind on the fist of the wind fighting talent was torn apart by force. This grab even tore his body apart, and died with a scream. Immediately afterwards, Chen Ang seized the time to turn back, and the dead dragon's arm ran in front of him. Boom. The attack of the electro-optic talent struck, a thunder beam fell on Chen Ang's dragon arm, and a dragon scale shattered, and blood gushed out. However, there was no joy in the eyes of the electro-optical genius, but panic appeared. That was his full blow. It was only enough to break through the defense. How could this be an opponent? He wanted to run away. But how could Chen Ang let him leave? Die. Spit out the cold words, Chen Ang attacked impressively, and the tearing claws broke out again. Puff. The body of the electro-optic genius fell to the ground with a bang. At the moment of falling to the ground, the head and neck were separated, and the blood splattered all over the ground. The gap between extreme evolution and non-limit evolution is too big. The expression on Chen Ang's face didn't fluctuate in the slightest, but he just murmured in his heart. They are all second-order talents. But the talents of extreme evolution, for these people, are almost the same as the third order and fourth order. The gap is too large, almost crushing. He waved his hand, and blood spilled. Chen Ang turned his head and looked in the direction of the young man with a talent for psychic power. The opponent had already taken advantage of the timing of the fight just now to escape. Chen Ang had more than expected, and he had no plans to hunt down. Run away, even if the other party is lucky. Shaking his head, Chen Ang raised his feet and walked towards Zhu Guo's position, reaching out to take the special item together with Zhu Guo. In the standings, Chen Ang's points rose by another 5,000 points. But Chen Ang didn't care about these. Just looking at Zhu Guo in his hand, his eyes flashed with excitement. With a move in my heart, the attribute panel appeared in front of me. Chen Ang. Body. 231 Pull. 500. Force. 234 Pull. 500. Min. 234 Pull. 500. Essence. 225 Extreme. 500. Talent. Dead Dragon Arm. Characteristics. Armor Break. Dragon Muscle. Twice the strength increase. Stealing life. Skills. Tearing Claw. Perfect. Double strength increase. You need to improve your proficiency. Fighting. Cultivation Method. Basic Ancient Yoga. This is Chen Ang's current property. Compared to before, the mental attributes have hardly changed. As for other attributes, it has increased a lot because of the Ancient Yoga. Now that there is Zhu Guo, Chen Ang feels that it is no surprise that his attributes will soon exceed 300. Of course, with the exception of spiritual attributes. By the way, I don't know if there are any good things on these guys. Chen Ang suddenly patted his head, and quickly turned around and walked to the corpses to grope. Kung Fu in a short while. 4 corpses, 4 space bags. All I can say is that they are rich. Tisk tisk, there are indeed a lot of good things. When looking at the contents of the space bag, Chen Ang couldn't help but slightly raised his eyebrows, and immediately showed a look of joy. Soul dust, and there are still 10 grams, ha ha ha, not bad. One of the materials needed for the dead dragon arm is undoubtedly gathered. But soon, Chen Ang showed surprise again. This is blood taswi. Tisk, I didn't expect to find it so quickly. From the space bag, Chen Ang took out a blood-colored Ganoderma lucidum plant, the so-called Tai Sui, but it was not big, only the size of a glass bead. It should be where this guy picked it up. Good luck. But in the end it was cheaper. This thing, the evolution of the dead dragon arm naturally does not need it. But it is one of the materials of the recovered body. The materials for the recovery body require blood Tai Sui, healing fruit, 10 drops of blood of different beasts and a sunflower. It can be said that Chen Ang currently only lacks 1 sunflower, so he can make potions and obtain his second talent. Previously, because there was no material, Chen Ang was not in a hurry for his second talent. But now, I didn't expect the material to come so quickly. 10 drops of blood of beasts is a very easy solution, and you can get it casually. So, do you want to acquire the second talent? Chen Ang touched his chin and thought, a little tangled. After thinking for a while, Chen Ang decided. Forget it, let's talk about it when sunflower is in hand. Thinking like this, Chen Ang continued to look at the other space bags. These guys may have killed a lot of beasts, and they also have a lot of materials in their hands. There is no such thing as Tiansaidibao. This is normal, and if there are real treasures, it is estimated that they have already taken them to improve their strength. However, when Chen Ang looked at the last space bag, his expression suddenly froze. Are you really here? Confused, Chen Ang took out a sunflower-like shrunken flower from the space bag. Sunflower. In the hand, there is a kind of warmth when the sun shines on the body. Looking at the sunflower in his hand, Chen Ang felt helpless. This is for me to make a decision immediately. Previously, I thought that I would wait until I got the sunflower before making a decision. The result is now, if God has the will, this is equivalent to God sending the body of recovery to his mouth and letting him get it. That's all, since there is such a fate, the second talent will be restored. With a wry smile, Chen Ang finally made a decision. Apart from these useful materials for Chen Ang, there are many other materials. In total, it probably brought Chen Ang an income of 30,000 yuan. Chen Ang is very satisfied with this. After all, this is the first day, and his harvest is already very rich. But next, Chen Ang doesn't plan to continue exploring. The most important thing is to swallow the vermilion fruit first, then make the potion, and obtain the second talent. After leaving this place, Chen Ang quickly found a suitable cave, stepped into it and set up a bonfire, and then Chen Ang took out the red fruit. The bright red vermilion fruit is crystal clear and exudes a seductive scent. Chen Ang couldn't help swallowing his saliva, and immediately ate it all into his stomach. The entrance of the pulp, along the throat and into the abdomen, seemed to liquefy in an instant, and merged into Chen Ang's body. Gradually, a sense of dryness emerged. The whole body was burning like fire, scorching hot. The blood is boiling. This feeling was accompanied by a burning pain, which made Chen Ang close his eyes and endure it with clenched teeth. Time passed by minute. A quarter of an hour later. The red skin on Chen Ang's body began to return to normal. All the feeling faded away. At this time, Chen Ang opened his eyes. Taking a deep breath, his forehead was covered in sweat. But there was excitement in his eyes. Both hands clenched fists at will, and the sound of breaking the air sounded. Not a small improvement. In the murmur, Chen Ang's heart moved slightly, and he checked the attributes again. Chen Ang. Body. 261 Pole, 500. Force. 264 Pole, 500. Min. 264 Pole, 500. Fine. 240 Extreme, 500. Talent. Dead Dragon Arm. Characteristics. Armor break, dragon muscle twice the strength increase, stealing life. Skills. Tearing Claw, perfect, double strength increase, you need to improve your proficiency, fighting. Cultivation method. Basic ancient yoga. Really? Seeing his brand new attributes, Chen Ang immediately became excited. But soon, Chen Ang suppressed this excitement, heaved a sigh of relief and waved his hand. A pile of materials appeared in front of me, including the talent stone that I got at the beginning. Next, we will start to prepare the medicine. First crush the talent stone and crush it into powder. Then smash the blood tasui into powder, and mix it with the powder of the talent stone. Chen Ang has a hint about the order of the potion production of the body of recovery, so naturally he can't make a mistake. Although it is a bit cumbersome, it is easy to make. Soon, a bottle of potion is finished. The body of recovery medicine, the color is bright green. It looks very beautiful, but this is for drinking. Therefore, it didn't waste time. Chen Ang took the potion and drank it in one gulp. Suddenly, Chen Ang frowned and let out a pained sound. It can be seen that Chen Ang's body became red at a speed visible to the naked eye, and his skin was distorted, as if something were changing. That kind of feeling, as if the bone was replaced, and the pain was extremely painful. This is the first time Chen Ang has acquired a new talent, and he never thought it would be so painful. But in order to avoid an accident, Chen Ang still gritted his teeth and endured it. His face became red, and his whole body was even more protruding from the pain. Time passed quietly. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Chen Ang almost felt like he was going to die of pain. The whole person will be dizzy. But gradually, the pain seems to go away. The redness on the skin also started to return. A gleam of radiance flashed across Chen Ang's skin. Ended, Chen Ang murmured, gasping for breath. His body was covered in sweat, cold sweat caused by the pain just now, and his clothes were soaked at this time. But when he felt the changes in his body, Chen Ang couldn't help grinning and lying on the ground, laughing loudly. After acquiring the second talent, can you actually enhance your attributes accordingly? Not bad. He could feel that his physical attributes had improved again. Even mental strength has improved. Not bad. With a move in his heart, a reminder appeared in front of Chen Ang's eyes. Self-mutilation. Boy, after a lot of self-mutilation, this feature will be activated. Do you want to be a big eater? As long as the meat contains qi and blood, you can eat it with confidence. If you eat more, you can activate it. Good guy. The activation of the two characteristics of the body of recovery is so novel. Chen Ang couldn't help but twitch at the corners of his mouth, but he breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, it is not difficult. Although simple means that this talent is not powerful. But Chen Ang didn't care. Because in the future, as it evolves, it will always become stronger. What's more, in Chen Ang's thoughts, the body of recovery itself is to assist him in fighting, not his main fighting method. What's more, this talent is currently unable to enhance Chen Ang's combat power. In this case, the easier it is to activate the feature, the better. This will allow for faster evolution. Otherwise, if the way to activate the feature is more difficult, I am afraid that this talent will not provide any help to Chen Ang for a while. By the way, there are also materials needed for evolution. Chen Ang slapped his forehead and continued to check. Body of restoration, evolution root. Body of absorption, required for evolution. 5 grams of void stone, 10 bullet flower petals, 3 grams of blood tasui, life treasure x1, Chaoyang dewdrop x3. Tisk, troublesome material. Chen Ang couldn't help but pouted after just one glance. Void stone, blood tai sui, is a good thing to say with Dangdanhua. You can buy it in the market if you can't find it in the secret realm. The treasures of life depend on luck. And the morning sun dew drops, it is a bit troublesome. To put it bluntly, morning dew drops are the dew when the sun first rises, but what is needed is the dew that can be used as a material. In other words, you have to wait for the sun to rise, and then go to find it drop by drop. It is troublesome, and it is extremely rare. Just thinking about Chen Ang feels a bit painful. However, he immediately turned off the prompts and paid no attention to these for the time being. Because of the pain just now, he almost collapsed. After recovering a little at this point, the stomach immediately gurgled. Fortunately, there is a lot of flesh and blood in his space ring. Chen Ang took it out and immediately roasted it, and sprinkled it with some seasonings, which was full of aroma. Just to activate the characteristics of the body of recovery, you need to eat more flesh and blood of beasts. Tisk tisk, the beasts killed next. It is estimated that even the corpse can't be spared. Chen Ang sighed. After waiting for a while, the meat was cooked. Chen Ang, regardless of the boiling heat, took it and ate it in big mouthfuls. After eating 10 pounds of meat, Chen Ang was barely full. Talented people, the stronger the strength, the greater the consumption. Ordinary animal flesh and blood can hardly satisfy the consumption of talented people, only the flesh of fierce beasts with sufficient blood will do. Hiccup. After burping, Chen Ang touched his nose. The feature has not been activated yet, and it is estimated that we will continue to eat it. But I have eaten the rest of the meat, and it looks like I have to go hunting. Shook his head. Chen Ang took the time to rest. As time passed, the sky outside became dim at some point. Chen Ang's physical strength has almost recovered. Although night was coming, Chen Ang still extinguished the bonfire and walked out of the tree hole. Looking around, his heart moved slightly, and a line of reminders appeared in front of him. Dark night is about to cover, and the magic horned rhinoceros is about to wake up to feed. Young man, have you considered changing directions? Yes, this direction is very good. There are ruins falling, although there are no good treasures, but there is a concept that is barely suitable for you. In the empty area, only beasts are wandering. The members of the blood sect are moving away from this direction. It is recommended not to approach, it is a bit dangerous. Blood sect. Seeing the 4 words in the prompt, Chen Ang's eyes widened and a flash of astonishment flashed. How can there be a blood sect in the secret realm of the college entrance examination? Could it be that it's an undercover? Chen Ang's eyes flickered. If nothing else, this should be the only possibility. However, if the system can prompt some danger, I am afraid that the opponent is very strong. Chen Ang himself had no idea of going in this direction, and he will not go now. The rhinoceros with magic horns can be put for a while. I didn't want to kill it before, but now, I need to eat. This guy's flesh and blood should contain rich energy and blood, which is suitable for my food. But right now, the most important thing is to look at ideas. A view that suits you. How could Chen Ang miss it? He worries about how to improve his spiritual power from time to time. And it just so happened that he could also use the views in the ruins to figure out which views were suitable for him. With the decision, Chen Ang no longer hesitated, and quickly flew in that direction. Chapter 51. After running wildly, in Chen Ang's expectation, he quickly arrived at his destination. A huge ruin. If there is no gold finger, perhaps Chen Ang will think that there must be something good in it. But unfortunately, it was because he had gold finger that he knew that the only valuable thing in the ruins was a book of ideas. It's here. His eyes moved slightly. After Chen Ang determined the direction through the prompt, he immediately stepped into the ruins and ran in one direction. When he came to the place, his right arm turned into a dead dragon arm and began to dig. After a while, a small pit appeared. Chen Ang continued to dig down. With a sound of clang, the dragon's claws touched a hard object. Chen Ang looked down with joy in his eyes. A white iron box appeared in the pit, and inside it should be an idea. Really? When Chen Ang opened the iron box, the insight inside appeared before him. Bone View Ideas. This is the name. Bone View Idea. Chen Ang raised his eyebrows, and doubts flashed in his eyes. Why is this view suitable for you in Goldfinger's tips? But despite his doubts, Chen Ang did not waste any time and left the place. After finding a safer place, Chen Ang turned the pages and used the ability of Goldfinger at the same time. Immediately, a message appeared in front of him. A low-level view, but it's not bad for you, but it is worth noting that it removes darkness and adds death. Take out darkness, add death. Chen Ang was even more puzzled. However, after Chen Ang carefully read this white bone concept, his face showed a sudden color. I see. The idea of the view of the bones is to condense the bones in the mind and visualize it. It's just that in addition to the white bones, there is an endless black mist in the dharma of white bones. So the black fog represents darkness, and the white bones represent death. If I want to learn this idea of the white bone view and make it more suitable for me, I have to get rid of the black fog and condense all the bones. Taking this as well, Chen Ang touched his chin even more and whispered to himself. So, the reason why this view is suitable for me is that it has two attributes of death and darkness. And what suits me is death, not darkness, otherwise it wouldn't be eliminated. And the reason why I am suitable for the concept of death attribute is because. Chen Ang's eyes lit up. Dead dragon arm, he got it. The dragon claw before the evolution of the dead dragon arm is the dragon attribute, but the death attribute is added after the evolution. That's why this view suits him. Taking this more in-depth thinking, it is not difficult to judge that apart from the death attribute, I am afraid that the dragon attribute can also be used. At the same time, he has now obtained the second talent recovery body. And the attribute represented by the restored body is life. Then the concept of life attributes should also be possible. I see. The corners of Chen Ang's mouth twitched, revealing an excited smile. After one is informed, very simple information will be found. But for Chen Ang, it is very important. At least in the future, if you are looking for ideas, you can completely collect them through your own talent. If the attributes are wrong and forced to practice, although I don't know what the consequences will be, I must be very concerned. Fortunately, I was only a preliminary practice before, and I didn't go deep. Chen Ang still had some lingering fears when he thought of the idea of the big tree view he had practiced before. Chen Ang, who didn't want to waste time, simply started to practice on the spot. Follow the method suggested by Goldfinger to eliminate darkness and condense death. Previously, when Chen Ang practiced the idea of big tree view, he was able to get started quickly. At the beginning, Chen Ang felt that he might be very talented in this area. This time, the practice is really like that. In just an hour, Chen Ang has already gotten started. And after getting started, visualizing the bones representing death, Chen Ang did not have the sour and inconsistent feeling like the big tree view idea. I just feel clear-headed and very comfortable. Even Chen Ang himself didn't notice that his right arm quietly turned into a dead dragon's arm, and the breath of death spread all over his body. In a blink of an eye, 2 hours passed. The sky has completely dimmed. Call. Chen Ang opened his eyes and exhaled a turbid breath. Immediately afterwards, there was a flash of excitement in his eyes, and he immediately checked his attributes. Before cultivating, Chen Ang's spiritual attributes were Essence, 247, Extreme, 500 because of the recovery body. And now, it has become Essence, 257, Extreme, 500. Increased by 10 points. Terrible speed. Even if it will get slower and slower later, this speed is enough to make Chen Ang excited. At least as long as you visualize, you can improve. But, goo goo. Chen Ang grinned as he touched his stomach that was already screaming with hunger. It's time to fight. As for the target, without a doubt, it is the magic horned rhinoceros. Magic horned rhinoceros is tier 4, but as long as it's not an overly powerful beast, it shouldn't be a problem to fight with my current strength. Chen Ang is confident in his own strength. It's just that his explosiveness is too high. With the enhancement of dragon muscles and tearing claws, the destructive power he burst out is not weaker than tier 4, or even stronger. Just can't keep breaking out. But dealing with a magic horned rhino is no problem. Thinking like this, Chen Ang got up and went straight to the direction of the magic horned rhinoceros. But after a while, Chen Ang reached his destination. Looking up, although the sky was dark, the vision of the talented person was naturally strong enough to allow Chen Ang to clearly see the open space in front of him. There was a behemoth stepping on a fierce tiger and beast under his feet, with a mouth full of fangs. Tear the flesh and blood from his body. The magic horned rhino is just a size bigger than an elephant. The body is covered with hard black scales, which makes people know that the defense is strong at a glance. But the most important thing is the single horn on its forehead, which is sharp and exudes magical energy, with the effect of piercing armor. That's where the magic horned rhino got its name. Perhaps sensing Chen Ang's breath, with a roar, the magic horned rhinoceros let out a low roar, turning his head to look in Chen Ang's direction. The blood-filled mouth opened, revealing sharp fangs, even more hideous. Seeing this, Chen Ang grinned and walked step by step. Roar! The magic horned rhino roared again, raised his feet and shook the ground, warning Chen Ang. The terrifying power made the ground seem to vibrate slightly. It's just that Chen Ang was not afraid at all, and even twisted his neck and moved his hands and feet, showing a provocative look. A fourth-order beast, it's a really good opponent. Done. With a wave of the right hand, the arm of the dead dragon emerged, and the killing intent erupted. The magic horned rhinoceros also felt this killing intent, and after roaring up to the sky, it suddenly slammed into. Chen Ang is not afraid. Ordinary talented people may avoid the charge of a fierce beast like the magic horned rhinoceros without hesitation. But Chen Ang was just trying his current strength, so he didn't have the idea of dodging, but swung his paw out to meet him. Tear claws. Clang. Claws and horns meet. The moment they collided, they fell into a stalemate. There was an explosion of air. Roar. The magic horned rhino roared, and kept pushing forward with its hind feet, as if to knock Chen Ang away. However, Chen Ang's expression remained the same, and he grinned with a cold smile. Beast, the strength is really strong enough. I have to say that the power of this magic horned rhinoceros is terrifying. If it wasn't for Chen Ang's tearing claw reaching the perfect level, it wouldn't necessarily have competed. But now, get away from me, Chen Ang roared. Under the rampant violence, dragon claws erupted. Boom! The magic horned rhino was abruptly repelled by 2 steps. Don't look at it as only 2 steps, but it means that the strongest power of Chen Ang's outbreak is stronger than the magic horn rhinoceros. This also means that as long as Chen Ang is not trying to die, then killing this magic horned rhino is not a problem. After repelling the magic horned rhinoceros, Chen Ang seized the opportunity, stepped out and rushed forward. Roar! The magic horned rhinoceros roared furiously, ramming over again, and the magic energy erupted from the magic horn, as if a drill was attacking. Chen Ang dodged with a jump, and even jumped to the right side of the magic horned rhinoceros, waving the dragon's claws. Tear claws. Puff. The painful sound of the magic horned rhinoceros sounded, and where Chen Ang hit, a bloody wound appeared, blood kept pouring out, and the hard scale armor shattered into pieces and fell to the ground. For such a reckless beast, it is not difficult to solve the other party. As long as the strength is stronger than the opponent, and can break through the opponent's defense on the line. And just right, Chen Ang has both. The characteristics of broken armor made Chen Ang not care about the scales on the opponent's body at all. A single blow, although not enough to seriously injure the magic horned rhinoceros, was enough. The pain caused the magic horned rhino to go into a frenzy. His eyes were red, and he stood up high on his hind legs, and then stomped down towards Chen Ang's position. The huge body and the heavy power it contained almost made the scalp tingle. Chen Ang was no exception. Even if he could block it, he didn't want to suffer this blow in vain, so he avoided it without hesitation. And just as Chen Ang dodged, the magic horned rhino stomped down. Rumbling, the ground shook wildly. The trampled ground even formed a huge deep pit, surrounded by cobwebs. The power is terrifying, but this won't hurt me, and if you meet me, you can only be considered unlucky. Chen Ang said with a light smile. One step out, the sound of breaking the air sounded, and attacked again. Seizing the neutral block where the magic horn rhino attack fell, he launched an attack from the right side, urging the tearing claw, and once again attacking the part that caused the damage before. The slow reaction speed of the magic horned rhino was too late to block the attack, and could only watch Chen Ang's attack fall. Puff. Blood splashes. This blow caused the wound to be opened wider and deeper in the previously injured part. Blood spurted out almost like a spring, and you could see the bones and flesh inside. If it was only a minor injury before, it is now a serious injury. The extreme pain caused the magic horned rhino to lose its mind and was completely engulfed by anger and fury. During the roar, he didn't care about the wound at all, and rushed towards Chen Ang desperately. "You're," Chen Ang sneered, reacting quickly to dodge the blow, and then his eyes fell on the wound of the magic horned rhinoceros, his eyes flickered, and the attack erupted. Tear claw, puff. With another hit, he went straight into the wound that had opened a huge opening, pierced the flesh and bones inside, and touched the heart of the magic horned rhinoceros, tearing it apart together. At that moment, a scream sounded. And at the moment of the sound, the magic horned rhinoceros fell to the ground with a bang, turning into a gradually icy corpse. The magic horn rhino is very strong. But unfortunately, Chen Ang is stronger. With a wave of his hand, the huge body of the magic horned rhinoceros was directly put away by Chen Ang, then turned and left. When he came under a huge ancient tree and dug out a hole in the tree, Chen Ang went in and started a bonfire, and then checked the body of the rhinoceros with magic horns. Tisk, good luck. A wave of hands. A horn appeared in his hand, exuding magical energy and shining with luster. There is no doubt that this is the horn of the magic horned rhinoceros, but it was unexpectedly still a material. And looking at the level of demonic energy, it is no surprise that this should be the material of demon attribute talent. It is expensive, and it comes from the hands of the 4th order magic horned rhinoceros. If nothing else, this corner alone can sell for 50,000 yuan. But what pleased Chen Ang the most was the flesh and blood of the devil-horned rhinoceros. Should be enough for me to activate the feature. Chen Ang thought to himself, waved his hand again with anticipation, and the magic horn disappeared. In its place were the front legs of a magic horned rhinoceros. After being cleaned up, Chen Ang immediately roasted. While waiting, Chen Ang also began to practice ancient yoga, consuming the energy in his body, and preparing to let go of his stomach and eat a big meal. After a while, the meat was roasted. Chen Ang was also hungry, so he ate it regardless of the piping hot. Not enough. After eating one leg, Chen Ang was a little full. But the feature is not activated yet. Obviously not enough. Without wasting time, Chen Ang continued to take out a leg and roast it. Then practice fighting techniques again, consuming energy in the body. So cycle, one meal after another. That is, the size of the magic horned rhinoceros is large enough to have many edible parts. Otherwise, I really can't stand Chen Ang's meal. Soon. Chen Ang hiccuped, took out the last piece of flesh and continued to roast, while murmuring in his mouth. If this piece is not enough, we can only wait for tomorrow. The sky was dark, and he would have to rest in a while. Shaking his head, Chen Ang got up, straightened his posture, and practiced ancient yoga again. When the meat was roasted, Chen Ang took a big mouthful and ate it. One bite after another. Gradually, Chen Ang felt a burning sensation in his body. To activate, Chen Ang said with joy in his heart, and he ate faster in his mouth. As predicted, this feeling quickly swept through the body. Indistinctly, a strange feeling emerged. And Chen Ang put down the barbecue in his hand, and there was an inexplicable comprehension in his eyes. Is this the characteristics of the body of recovery? Yes. Feature, already activated. As a gifted person, he was aware of it at the moment of activation. Just a thought, Chen Ang looked it up. Blood spring. When swallowing something with strong qi and blood, it will store a certain amount of qi and blood and consume it to restore the injury when it is damaged. Restore feature. Chen Ang's eyes flickered. The characteristics of the body of recovery. Tisk, how should I put it, it is quite good. If it is purely from the perspective of the recovered body, it is actually quite ordinary. Because there is no combat bonus. But as a second talent, it is indeed very good. Because Chen Ang is not lacking in combat power. The recovery ability of the body of recovery, coupled with the fact that this feature is obviously accelerated recovery, is still very good for a melee talent like Chen Ang. In particular, this thing seems to go well with its own life-stealing feature. The life-stealing feature itself restores damage, plus the ability to restore the body and its characteristics. It is conceivable that in battle, Chen Ang's resilience will reach a very powerful level. Next, another feature. Chen Ang murmured, his eyes flickering, thinking of the activation method of another feature, and the corners of his mouth twitched. Self-mutilation. Years. With a helpless sigh, Chen Ang raised his right hand and turned it into a dead dragon's arm, and then stroked his left arm with that sharp claw. A small wound appeared, and blood gushed out. But then the wound healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. This is the advantage of having a body of recovery, and minor injuries will recover in a short time. Chen Ang did not end, but continued to stroke. The wound appears and then recovers. After Chen Ang repeatedly concocted, the second characteristic has not moved. The sky is also getting darker. Chen Ang thought for a while, but decided to rest first. Wait until tomorrow to explore, and then self-harm. Although it sounds weird, but there is no way, who made this feature activate like this? After extinguishing the bonfire, Chen Ang leaned back against the wall in the tree hole and closed his eyes, his breathing slowed, and he fell asleep unconsciously. The next day, the sun was rising, and a ray of light appeared in the darkness. Chen Ang opened his eyes and looked at the bright sky outside the tree hole. He immediately got up and stretched his body before taking a shower. After everything was done, Chen Ang walked out of the tree hole, touched his stomach and whispered in his heart. Gotta get some food to eat. In the past, Chen Ang's breakfast was relatively simple, and it was not enough to eat some wild fruits or something bfch. But now, it is better to kill the beasts to eat. After all, it is necessary to store blood. With a slight movement in his heart, prompts appeared in front of him. I know what you think, so here is your breakfast, but just breakfast. A drop of morning dew, how about it? Are you interested? Empty area, no treasures, even the beasts have left. A candidate is resting in this direction, maybe you can consider killing people and stealing treasures. Chen Ang raised an eyebrow. Murder and steal treasure or something, let's forget it. He's not in that mood now. In this area, it seems that there are not many good things left. Next, you may have to explore a little further afield. However, it was a pleasant surprise to find a morning sun dewdrop. Of course, this is also due to the fact that he got up early today. Shaking his head, Chen Ang stopped talking nonsense. First, he went to put away the Chaoyang dewdrops, and then went to the other direction to kill the beasts and bake them for breakfast. After eating and drinking, Chen Ang set off at full speed in one direction, preparing to explore further areas. After running for about an hour, Chen Ang's eyes appeared a continuous mountain area, which was extremely lush. When Chen Ang reached the foot of the mountain and looked around, excitement flashed in his eyes. A mountain range rich in materials and treasures, do you see this direction? There is a fallen goblin merchant. Although it falls, it has the ability to leave at any time. You'd better find it before leaving, so that you can interact with it. Trading. This is the territory of the mountain monkeys, enter it to get the monkey wine, you can make the goblins unable to refuse. Bangdan flowers grow here, if you are interested, you can go to pick them. A fifth-order vicious beast, the territory of the mountain Yulong, if you want to die, you can go for a walk. There is a flower of life in this direction, the treasure of life, do you know what I mean? A fifth-order beast, or a sub-dragon. Seeing the existence in the prompt, Chen Ang couldn't help but shrink his pupils, showing a look of shock. This is called the cleared secret realm, or in the opinion of the official personnel, there are candidates who can solve the existence of this fifth-order Yulong. If nothing else, at least as far as Chen Ang is concerned, he is unlikely to be Yulong's opponent. But it doesn't matter, Chen Ang himself didn't want to go to Yulong. On the contrary, it was the other hints that made Chen Ang look excited. Goblin merchant. Since it is a merchant, there should be good things on him. But I don't have anything valuable on me, since I'm trading, I have to go and get the monkey wine first. There is also the flower of life and the flower of bullets, which must be obtained, these are the evolutionary materials for the body of recovery. After thinking about it, Chen Ang quickly made a decision. First get the flower of life, then the monkey wine, and then the goblin merchant. Bullets and flowers, you can come back at the end. Think of it and do it. Chen Ang took one step and walked away quickly. The flower of life is not far from Chen Ang. In 5 minutes, Chen Ang arrived here. At a glance, he saw the flower of life emitting a faint light, perhaps because of the awakening of the body of recovery, Chen Ang could feel the vitality emanating from it. It's just that Chen Ang just arrived here when footsteps sounded on the right. Chen Ang turned his head to look. It was another candidate man. After seeing Chen Ang, the other party looked surprised, but when he felt Chen Ang's fierce aura, he quickly raised his hand and begged for mercy. This brother, let me go, how about I don't rob you? Can? Chen Ang nodded. It's best not to fight. After all, Chen Ang is not a murderer either. After receiving the answer, the man turned around in relief and walked towards the distance. Chen Ang is also walking towards the flower of life. But at this moment, the man turned his head sharply, and burst towards Chen Ang from behind at the fastest speed. He clenched his fists with both hands, and the fists seemed to have condensed air, exuding a split atmosphere. With a sneer on his face, he cursed inwardly. Innocent. But when his attack was about to land on Chen Ang turned back suddenly, with a playful and disdainful look on his face. Act recklessly. A cold voice came out of his mouth. Chen Ang's right arm turned into a dead dragon's arm at some point, and a claw tore it out. Boom! The collision erupted. Air waves swept. The next moment, the man's expression changed. The cyclone covering his fist began to be torn apart under Chen Ang's claws, and disappeared at an extremely fast speed. No, it's impossible, he roared, unable to believe the scene in front of him. But Chen Ang sneered. Die! Tearing claw. Puff! The cyclone shattered directly under another blow. It even took this opportunity to attack the man's chest. With one blow, the man was directly knocked to the ground, a deep wound on his chest appeared, and blood flowed out. The bones and flesh are clearly visible. No, don't kill me, please. He was seriously injured and begged, with a look of fear in his eyes. Seeing this, Chen Ang shook his head. If I knew this earlier, why bother? After speaking, Chen Ang's dragon claw waved again. With a puff, blood sputtered. Chen Ang ended the other's life without the slightest fluctuation on his face. From the very beginning, Chen Ang never let down his guard, and he didn't think the other party would really leave. After all, Chen Ang knows that when the young man awakens and becomes a gifted person, no one will feel that he is weaker than others, and he has his own arrogance in his heart. If you kill some more people and kill some beasts, it will be even more inflated. Even if you feel some people's aura that is not weak, you will feel that the other party is not your opponent, so you will take action. Actually, so is Chen Ang. It's just that his strength is indeed strong enough, so he is not afraid of everything. Shaking his head, Chen Ang turned around, plucked the flower of life into the space ring, then turned back to the man's body and groped. Soon, a space ring was found by Chen Ang, and under the touch of spiritual power, he entered it and searched. After a while, Chen Ang's face showed excitement. Tisk, there are a lot of materials, this guy may have killed a lot of people before. Chen Ang murmured, the things in this space ring do not seem to be what Chen Ang needs at present, but the value is not low, there are about 20,000 materials. Next, it's monkey wine. After a murmur, Chen Ang got up, looked in the direction of the monkey wine, and immediately set off, moving forward quickly. After running all the way, Chen Ang reached his destination. This is a bamboo forest, and in the bamboo forest, you can see a lot of mountain monkeys. However, the strength of the mountain monkey is relatively weak, and it is basically a first order, so the Monkey King can have a second order. When they saw Chen Ang coming, the monkeys suddenly made a harsh sound, warning Chen Ang to leave. Roll! Chen Ang swept his eyes and let out a loud shout, and the breath burst out and covered him. In an instant, a look of fear appeared in the eyes of some mountain monkeys, and even the Monkey King backed away in fear. Chen Ang sneered and continued to search. Not here, change direction. Not here, you have to keep looking. I found it, did you see this bamboo? After knocking it open, it is full of monkey wine, which is very mellow and has a special effect. Found it. Seeing the prompt in front of him, Chen Ang's eyes lit up and he immediately walked towards the bamboo. Seeing this, some of the surrounding mountain monkeys showed anxious expressions. As first-order beasts, their IQs are not high, so even if they knew that Chen Ang was heading in the direction of monkey wine, they did not dare to stop Chen Ang due to the terrible aura on him. Therefore, he could only watch helplessly as Chen Ang knocked under the thick bamboo, took away all the monkey wine in it, and turned to leave. Monkey wine of Dashan Monkey. Monkey wine brewed by the fierce beast Dashan Monkey, the material is all kinds of flowers and fruits collected by Dashan monkeys, and rare things, such as special gold and stone, materials, sky, etc. are placed in different bamboo joints. It is brewed together with materials such as materials and treasures, and the taste is excellent. At the same time, taking more can also enhance the physique and enhance the man's true character. Tisk tisk, the last sentence is the point, right? After leaving the sight of Dashan monkey, Chen Ang couldn't help laughing after seeing the introduction about monkey wine in front of him. There was also a look of interest in his eyes. Cough cough. You must know that the talent is strong, and the ability in certain aspects is naturally not weak. But at the same time, the object of the gifted is basically the gifted. So relatively speaking, it is no different from ordinary people. At this time, this kind of good thing that is useful to talented people is very valuable. Moreover, Chen Ang took out a glass of monkey wine and tasted it, and he couldn't help but sigh. It's really a jade liquid. Not bad. This monkey wine, even if someone like Chen Ang who doesn't drink much, tastes it, it feels like a good wine. And there are quite a few. Because the monkey wine was basically taken away by Chen Ang, a total of about 20 pounds. Chen Ang intends to keep 10 pounds for himself, and the rest can be used for trading. Of course, Chen Ang is not interested in the so-called enhancing a man's true character, but mainly to enhance his physique, everyone who understands it. With a grin, Chen Ang shook his head, his eyes flickering and looking for a direction. Soon after Chen Ang found the direction of the goblin merchant, he started to move forward. While looking for the goblin businessman, Chen Ang also used dragon claws to separate a gap in his left arm from time to time, grabbing the time to move forward, to speed up the activation of the second characteristic of the body of recovery. The goblin merchants are far from Chen Ang. Maybe it's because the goblin merchants themselves are running around, so sometimes Chen Ang is advancing, and the other side is advancing, and the distance hardly changes. 0. Sometimes they get close to each other. Therefore, even if Chen Ang pursued for 2 hours, he was still a long way from the goblin merchant. But just as he was getting closer and closer to the goblin, puff! After Chen Ang opened a gap on his left arm again, he could clearly see that the wound was recovering. When fully recovered, Chen Ang stopped abruptly, looked at his left arm abruptly, grinned with a happy smile, and there was surprise in his eyes. Activated. Yes, the goblin merchant has not yet been found, but the second characteristic of the body of recovery has finally been activated. Just a move in his heart, Chen Ang is looking at this second characteristic. Quick healing. Small wounds on your body will heal at an extremely fast speed. Quick recovery. Chen Ang's eyes flickered, he touched his chin and thought for a moment, then his eyes burst out with excitement. Nice feature. In just an instant, Chen Ang realized how helpful this feature was to him. He himself has the ability to steal life, plus the fountain of life, and the resilience of the body of recovery itself. Under such circumstances, coupled with quick healing, it is no exaggeration to say that as long as no one can seriously injure him with a single blow, Chen Ang will not be injured again from now on. Because a minor injury is no longer an injury to Chen Ang. Only serious injuries count as injuries. If you are fighting again, by stealing your life, even if you are seriously injured, you can heal at an extremely fast speed. Think about it this way. Hiss. Just horrible. Not bad. Chen Ang was delighted. I am very satisfied with this feature. Unfortunately, there is no way to try it now, so Chen Ang can only suppress his excitement and move on, looking for the trace of the goblin merchant. Running all the way, for some unknown reason, the goblin merchant stopped in one place and did not continue to run around. So after about a quarter of an hour, Chen Ang finally found the goblin merchant. When Chen Ang arrived at his destination, he looked up and saw that it was in a cave. At this time, the goblin merchant was sitting in the cave and building a bonfire, holding a piece of barbecue in his hand and sitting on the side roasting. While grilling, he muttered something. After getting closer, Chen Ang realized. All right, I can't understand myself. But at this time, the goblin businessman also saw Chen Ang, and immediately showed a vigilant look, and the language in his mouth changed. Human talent, what do you want to do? It is impossible to see that the goblin, 047, actually understands human language. Chen Ang said with a light smile. Goblin merchant. Hey, you actually know my identity. The goblin was surprised, but then nodded and asked. Yes, I'm a goblin merchant, so you want to make a deal with me? Of course, that's what I'm here for. Chen Ang smiled. Then come here. After learning that he was looking for him to make a deal, the goblin merchant relaxed a little and let Chen Ang approach. At this time, Chen Ang probably looked at the goblin's appearance. Somewhat similar to goblins, short, sallow skin, with pointed ears like elf, but eyes full of shrewdness, and not as ugly and disgusting as goblins. Hey, I didn't expect to meet a human talent here. It seems that this is your secret realm. My luck is not bad. The goblin merchant grinned. Hearing this, Chen Ang's eyes showed curiosity. Why do you say that? Of course, if I meet you, it is more likely to make a deal. The goblin explained. We goblin merchants are easy to teleport to various places, and some places are difficult to make transactions, you know. Like the abyss, the land of the dead or the goblins, there is hardly any topic to talk about, let alone make transactions. Well, it's better for you humans to have a good conversation here. By the way, human, looking at your appearance, you should be young in human age, right? Do you really have what I need? When I trade here, I either need gold or barter. The goblin wondered if Chen Ang had the financial resources to make a deal with him. In this regard, Chen Ang did not speak, but just took out an empty glass bottle from the space ring, and after another wave of his hand, a stream of wine appeared out of thin air and flowed into the glass bottle. The mellow wine aroma escaped all of a sudden. The goblin businessman subconsciously shook his nose and sniffed, and suddenly showed an excited look. The wine tastes so good. This taste is so familiar, so familiar. I must have had this wine, where is it? Oh, I remember. Years. The goblin exclaimed excitedly. This is monkey wine, right? It must be monkey wine, it must be. I have tasted it, not much, but it is extremely delicious, and most importantly, it has many peculiar functions. Saying that, the goblin asked with a longing look in his eyes. Human, are you trying to trade this with me? If so, then I'm very willing. 5. Certainly, Chen Ang smiled and nodded. But before that, I have to see if you have anything I need, don't I? Hearing this, the goblin suddenly said proudly. Humph, human beings, don't underestimate every goblin businessman. You must know that we are a race that travels around the world, collecting precious things, and there is definitely something you need. Wait a minute, I'll look for it. The goblin groped for himself. After a while, the goblin found a stone and handed it to Chen Ang. Human, this is a record stone, which comes from an abyss world. You can put your spiritual power into it to check, and it records all the goods I currently own. Hearing this, after Chen Ang took it, he glanced at the black stone curiously, and then his spiritual power entered it. Immediately, a stream of information seemed to be transformed into a picture, passing by in front of him. Every piece of information is a commodity, which shocked Chen Ang. The liquid of the succubus. Enma's unicorn. Extremely cold snow lotus. The heart of a fire dragon. The scales of the wind dragon. Titan's ancient spear. The feathers of the great demon Black Wing. Angel's pity. Various items. Chen Ang was almost dazzled, and there were even pictures to look at. And the more Chen Ang looked, the more fiery his eyes became. He even took a deep breath. This goblin, really rich. I want to grab it. All right, Chen Ang quickly gave up on the idea. If nothing else, a goblin who can get so many good things is probably not something that a second-order talent can grab. Chen Ang felt that he should concentrate on finding the items he needed. You don't need to look at the items of demons, dragons, and angels. Chen Ang knew very well that he would definitely not be able to afford it. And I don't have a lot of monkey wine, so I might as well find something useful for myself. After a while, Chen Ang found it and asked, "What's the price of the void stone? If you use monkey wine to count, it's £1 a pound. Too expensive. Then how much do you say, human? How about a piece or two? I think you are seriously ill. At least 5 or 2. Okay, deal." Chen Ang nodded. Keep looking. What about the dewdrops in the morning sun? A drop or two. Blood is too old. 1 pound and 1 gram. Humans, don't think about bargaining. Although this thing is not very valuable, it is difficult to find. All right. Chen Ang nodded, didn't mind, and continued to read. The more he looked, the more excited Chen Ang became, the more excited he became. No way, there are too many things he needs. Even Chen Ang found all the materials he needed for his own evolution in it. It is no exaggeration to say that if Chen Ang has enough monkey wine, then today, he can directly let his recovery body and dead dragon arm evolve. But unfortunately, Chen Ang doesn't have that much monkey wine. And the material of the recovery body is good. But the material of the dead dragon arm is somewhat expensive. A single drop of death's blood requires 10 pounds of monkey wine. In addition to the blood of death, Chen Ang also needs 3 drops of blood from the heart of the dead dragon and 3 grams of the dragon's horn powder. Each of these 2 items must be considered 10 pounds. Chen Ang simply can't afford it. In the end, after some hesitation, Chen Ang negotiated with the goblin businessman and bought 18 pounds of monkey wine to buy what he wanted. The first is Blood Tasui, Void Stone and Chaoyang Dewdrop. That is to say, once Chen Ang goes to pick the previously discovered dandan flowers, then Chen Ang will be able to evolve the body of recovery. I have to say that this evolution rate is too fast. After all, he didn't have much time to get the body of recovery in total. Ordinary people at this time, I am afraid not even a feature is activated. And apart from that, Chen Ang also purchased a drop of death's blood, and 3 grams of death dragon's dragon horn powder. This is what Chen Ang said anyway, this goblin only sold it. After all, generally speaking, it is not sold by the gram. After obtaining these things, Chen Ang basically evolved the distance between the dead dragon's arm and only the blood of the dead dragon's heart. However, I have another opportunity to go to the school warehouse to obtain resources, I don't know if there are any there. Chen Ang thought to himself. If there is, then after the completion of the college entrance examination, he may be able to evolve the dead dragon arm. Thinking of this, Chen Ang was full of expectations. The deal ended, and both parties were happy. The goblin took the monkey wine and drank it in small sips with a satisfied expression on his face. Especially after drinking a sip of wine, and then having a sip of barbecue, the little face is full of joy. Tisk tisk, that's the smell, it's really nostalgic. Saying that, the goblin looked at Chen Ang and said kindly. Human, tell me your name. My name is Chen Ang. Chen Ang, I remember you. Human, I am a member of the goblin merchants, you can call me Tata, I hope you will stay with a good wine in the future. Although the goblin merchants you meet in the future may not be me, but you must know that all goblin merchants love wine. 5. Hearing this, Chen Ang nodded slightly and smiled. Okay, I remember, Tata. Aha, the goblin nodded and continued drinking. Chen Ang smiled and said, okay, I'm leaving, so goodbye, Tata. Go, Chen Ang. The goblin waved his hand without raising his head. Chen Ang turned and left with a smile, heading straight for the direction of Dandanhua. Suddenly, the voice of Tata came from behind, said, that's right, Chen Ang. What's wrong? Chen Ang turned back, looking puzzled. Tata pointed in one direction. Chen Ang, if you have time, you can go to that direction. I have been there secretly before and observed that there are many talented human beings gathered there. It seems that there will be a small auction. Auctions. Chen Ang rubbed his chin and thought to himself, is there an auction in the secret realm of this exam room? Crazy. The talents who can be here must be candidates. It can only be said that those candidates have novel ideas. But don't say he was quite interested, so he nodded. Okay, I see, goodbye Tata. After speaking, Chen Ang left directly this time, and after a while, Kung Fu disappeared from Tata's sight. As Chen Ang left, Tata stood up with a satisfied look after eating the barbecue and drinking, and muttered. Next time, you must find other goblins to get a sound transmission stone and a positioning stone, so that you can contact Chen Ang at any time. Forget it, meeting is fate, maybe we will meet again soon. I should go too. Speaking, Tata patted a belt on his waist, a crack opened in front of him, Tata walked into it, and the figure disappeared. Call. It should be in this area. Chen Ang's eyes swept around, and finally landed on 3 colorful flowers on the edge of the lake. That's a bombshell. Chen Ang's eyes flashed with joy, and he immediately stepped forward to pick them up one by one. The evolution of the body of recovery requires 10 petals, which is enough. This also means that Chen Ang can now evolve the body of recovery if needed. But in this regard, Chen Ang was not in a hurry, and looked in one direction, which was the direction Tata pointed to earlier. After thinking about it, Chen Ang made a decision. Explore while going to the place Tata said. Chen Ang is interested in that auction. After all, the secret realm is so big, and the candidates who come in are randomly placed. Even if they have gold finger, it is not ruled out that other candidates have also found good things. I just don't know what the candidates will use as currency in this secret realm. Is it also barter? Thinking like this, Chen Ang shook his head and no longer thought about it too much, but moved slightly in his heart, and hints appeared in front of him. Don't forget, this is the direction of the mountain Yulong. In this direction, there is a broken ruin with enemies inside, but at the same time, there is also a breathing method suitable for you. Go to the direction of the auction, although the auction is not very good, but you will meet your friends. Ferocious beasts gather, you can consider killing a few as food for lunch and dinner. Breathing, Chen Ang's eyes lit up and his heart was excited. After I learned from the instructor earlier, I didn't expect to encounter a breathing method so quickly, and it was a breathing method that was suitable for me. Besides, there are auctions there. My good friend. I don't know if it's Li Leiyao or Xiao Yiqing. Forget it, no matter who it is, you'll know when you go and have a look. Thinking of this, Chen Ang didn't think about it anymore. The most important thing was to go to the secret realm to get the breathing method. No more nonsense, Chen Ang quickly swept away, and within a few steps, the figure disappeared in this area. At the same time, secret territory, somewhere, two Wangxing Pagoda members were walking in the middle of a forest, as if they were looking for something. One frowned. Are you sure you're here? Of course, I'm sure that the positioning disc that Lord Truth gave us is positioning this area. If that's the case, then look carefully. Using the ground-penetrating technique, in that war, the power of the World Master was so terrifying that he almost tore apart the body of the deity, and the space was also broken. Some of the wreckage fell into the space and fell into in the secret realm, it may fall into the ground. Well, I hope I can find it as soon as possible, otherwise it will be troublesome if I notice it. HMPH, don't worry, people in this world won't notice it, after all our precious materials are not paid for in vain, but I smell the breath of blood. Is it those disgusting guys? I don't know how that idiot Xie Kangning provoked the other party. If it wasn't for him, those disgusting guys wouldn't know the secret. Be vigilant, we'll find each other separately. It is good. Between the words, the two acted separately. Is this the ruin? Chen Ang arrived at the destination, and in front of him was the ruins. Said to be a relic, it can also be called a huge ruin. The buildings are all made of marble-like materials, full of the elegance and beauty of extraterritorial civilizations. But at this moment, there are quite a few puppets, patrolling the area like guards. Chen Ang felt it for a moment and heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, it's not strong, it's all first and second order puppets, and it can be solved. Thinking like this, Chen Ang lifted his foot and quickly burst into speed, stepping into the ruins. A puppet immediately found Chen Ang, light burst out from his pupils, and the laser was about to fire. Chen Ang sneered and flew out like a cannonball, his right hand turned into a dead dragon arm and swung down suddenly, a black light erupted. Bang! The puppet's head shattered and was directly damaged. One-click solution. But this battle movement also attracted other puppets. Down pointing arrow. Whizzing, whizzing. The sound of breaking through the air kept ringing, Chen Ang's body twisted, and while constantly dodging, he was also quickly approaching the puppet. Tear claws. With a low voice, the dragon claws waved, and the black light burst out and swept away. In an instant, a three-headed puppet was shattered and damaged under the tearing claw. The ruins fell silent for a while. Chen Ang stood in the corner and looked into the depths of the ruins, where there were more puppets. But Chen Ang doesn't have the idea of solving it all. This is not an upgrade of monsters, and if you solve all these puppets, you won't get anything good. As long as the breathing method is found, Chen Ang is ready to leave. Not in this direction. At the corner in this direction, there are three-headed puppets patrolling. The breathing method you need is in this direction. There is a passage leading to the underground behind the corner. There is a room in the deepest part, and the breathing method is in it, but there are puppets blocking the way. Glancing over, after the prompt appeared, Chen Ang determined the direction and moved forward immediately. Just a few steps out. Whoosh! A laser strikes. Chen Ang turned to dodge, the laser blasted on the wall, and a large hole was dissolved all at once. Die! With a low voice, Chen Ang suddenly exploded in speed, and after approaching the puppet, he grabbed the puppet's head with one hand. A glimmer of light appeared in the puppet's eyes, and he was about to fire the laser again. But the next moment, rip, Chen Ang's power exploded, and he forcibly tore off the puppet's head. Throwing his head away, Chen Ang moved on. A puppet appeared. With a puff, the dragon claws waved and shattered with one blow. In this regard, Chen Ang's expression was calm and did not change in the slightest. Just faster. Soon, Chen Ang saw the passage leading to the underground and immediately went deep into it. Walking all the way, Chen Ang finally reached the deepest room. There are no puppets here. Open the door and see what's inside. It seems to be a study. There are many books, but most Chen Ang can't read it. It seems to be the text of other civilizations. A book that records the history of Erwin's world. Not this one, the next one. Continue, next book. Books that record the ruins here. This could have been picked up and looked at. Chen Ang looked at the prompt and flipped the book in his hand. Fortunately, this book is not words, but pictures. Each page has a picture, which allows Chen Ang to have a good understanding of the source and function of this relic. After reading all the content, Chen Ang looked suddenly. This ruin comes from a world called Erwin. In that world, there is a sacred dragon called Elwin. The giant dragon is the belief of everyone in the world, and it is a giant dragon god. And this relic was originally a temple built by believers for it. Everything in the elven world was originally very beautiful, but it is recorded in the book that one day, a huge gap was opened in the sky, and a figure came from outside the domain to rule the world. The holy dragon is unwilling to fight with it. But the other party was too strong. The body of the great sacred dragon was torn apart in the sky, and its wings were torn apart. The vast battle shattered the sky. They are the believers of Erwin, but they can do nothing but listen to the pain and compassion from the gods in the sky. Someone mustered up the courage to look up to the sky. The shocking discovery, their belief, the great sacred dragon god, was torn apart by the outsider. There are wings falling to the ground, flowing with golden blood. Blood spilled like raindrops. They saw that the power of the sacred dragon was like a 7-color rainbow, and it was beaten out of the body, falling into the void, and did not know where to go. Ultimately, they want to see more. But the battle was too terrifying, causing the space to split, and their entire temple fell into it and came here. Many people died in the fall. The survivors lived here, and a believer made this book to record everything he knew. But their strength is weak, it is difficult to survive here, and eventually they gradually die, all returning to dust. That's all that's written in this book. Chen Ang's eyes flickered after reading it. Until he turned to the last page, his eyes suddenly showed shock. This is. On the last page, the believers who made this book looked up at the starry sky outside the temple on a certain night, thinking of their hometown, but saw the sky cracked and a familiar light fell into the distance. He felt a familiar breath. That is the breath of the great gods, the power of the great gods, falling here. He wanted to find it. But there were too many beasts on the way, and they were too powerful, making him unable to go. In the end, he can only record this matter in the book, eager for future generations to find it. Unfortunately, all descendants died here. After reading all of it, Chen Ang's breathing couldn't help but quicken. That is to say, there is a god's power that has fallen into this world. And of Li's is the power of the dragon gods. How can Chen Ang not be excited by this? After all, his talent is dragon attribute. Not to mention whether that power can help him. But the power alone is definitely not a loss. Putting it on the outside will definitely sell for a sky-high price. At that time, no matter what material you want, I am afraid you can easily change it. What's more, Chen Ang felt that if he got it, that power would definitely help him. Thinking of this, Chen Ang was even more excited. But soon, he suppressed the excitement in his heart and calmed down and murmured. Speaking of which, it's a little too early for me to be excited. Maybe it was discovered and taken away when the official cleared this secret realm. How could it be my turn? Let's find the breathing method first. As for that power, you can go and see it when the time comes. If it is the best, it doesn't matter if it is not. With the help of prompts, Chen Ang quickly found the breathing method he wanted from a pile of books that he could not read. Holy Dragon Breathing. Chen Ang chanted the name of the breathing method, opened it and looked at it. Graphics available. Chen Ang can only understand pictures. But that's enough. After watching, Chen Ang probably understood. The name of this breathing method is loud, but it is actually just a believer of the giant dragon god. Because of observing him day and night, he began to learn the breathing method of the god, and constantly improved and adjusted, and finally created this breathing method. But because the master who created this breathing method is too weak, this breathing method can only be regarded as a primary breathing method. But even so, it is very suitable for Chen Ang. Why? Because this breathing method not only has the ability to strengthen the body, but more importantly, after continuous practice, the physique will be improved faintly. In addition, if there is a dragon vein in the body, it can stimulate the power in the blood vein, which is born long way. But unfortunately, this breathing method is too simple and can only do this. Chen Ang looked at the breathing method in his hand, recalling what the instructor had said at the beginning. His eyes twinkled. The instructor said that there are some special breathing methods with extraordinary functions, so is the Holy Dragon breathing method a special category. After all, practicing the breathing technique can also inspire long way. This is too bizarre. Although it is necessary to have dragon veins in the body, if not, it can also be activated by swallowing dragon blood. Of course, Chen Ang definitely doesn't need to worry about this. There are dragon veins in his body, also known as the blood of the dragon. In fact, when Chen Ang awakened the talent of Dragon Claw, he already possessed the dragon veins. It's just that I want to activate Longwei, but it's still too far away. After all, the ability of Longwei can be understood as a kind of momentum, and because it comes from a giant dragon, it has a natural suppression for many creatures. And once it breaks out, it can even cause a mental shock like the Overlord Domineering in the world of One Piece. Therefore, it can be said to be a very powerful ability. If the strength of the person who created this breathing method is stronger, it would be better if it is perfected, then maybe not only Longwei, but also dragon breath. Chen Ang murmured his own greedy idea. But immediately, he shook his head and smiled bitterly. He patted his head to let himself not be too greedy, then sat down cross-legged and studied hard. Breathing. Just hear the name. To put it simply, it is a different way of breathing. But the breathing method of the geniuses is naturally more different from the ordinary breathing method. It is not only necessary to adjust and increase the breathing method and breathing rhythm, but also to stimulate the internal organs, and even the tremors of the blood and meridians, so as to cooperate with each other, etc., in order to successfully cultivate the breathing method. Especially the special breathing method like the Holy Dragon breathing method, it is necessary to have dragon veins in the body to practice. Otherwise, if you forcefully cultivate, it will easily lead to sudden death. Soon, Chen Ang is immersed in learning. The content of every picture on the breathing method was deeply remembered by Chen Ang. Gradually, Chen Ang sank. Breathe slowly. With every breath, there seemed to be a low roar. If someone looked closely, they would find that the cortex on the surface of the skin, and even the blood under the cortex, trembled faintly during every breath of Chen Ang. If you can see through it, you can see that the internal organs and other organs in Chen Ang's body are trembling. And the rhythm of the tremors is not the same. As Chen Ang kept breathing, the roar grew louder. The blood in the body also began to boil. It seems that some kind of bloodline contained in it is being activated. The sound started getting louder. Roar, roar. It is like the sound of tiger and leopard thunder, exuding domineering. But the voice is still changing in Chen Ang's constant breathing. Become louder, more arrogant, faintly, began to transform towards Longyan. Dead dragon arm does not BFCH know when it will be revealed. The breath of death permeated his body. As the blood boiled, an inexplicable aura escaped from Chen Ang's body. Under this breath, you can clearly see the ants, insects, etc. in the basement, all of which seem to be frightened and flee frantically towards the outside. Gradually, the breath is getting stronger. Finally, Chen Ang took another breath. Roar. A dragon roar erupted. Immediately afterwards, the power seemed to be transformed into a wave of air, rolling out and sweeping across all directions. Chen Ang suddenly opened his eyes, and an inexplicable deterrence flashed past. Feeling the changes in his body, Chen Ang's eyes widened, showing a look of astonishment, followed by ecstasy. I didn't expect to succeed in cultivation so easily, and it really activated Longwei. Hiss. This cultivation method is simply created for the innate talent who awakens the dragon attribute talent. It is absolutely impossible for ordinary people to succeed in cultivation so quickly, even with dragon blood swallowing. And the reason why Chen Ang succeeded so quickly, aside from Chen Ang's own aptitude and understanding, the most important thing is that his body contains dragon veins. Because it is brought about by awakening, it can be understood as innate. The difference between nature and nurture is huge. As this long way, the corners of Chen Ang's mouth twitched, his heart moved, and a breath burst out with Chen Ang's thoughts. Even if it is not aimed at himself, Chen Ang can still feel the domineering contained in this breath. An interesting ability, Chen Ang murmured. Long way, only after he possesses it can he know what is interesting about this ability. This aura is different from the murderous and evil spirits of ordinary people, but the difference is not big. This aura is more like the manifestation of the spirit. The stronger the spirit, the stronger the self-will, and the deterrence that erupts will be strong enough. Even after reaching a certain level, it is not impossible to reach the point of substantiation. And, it's a developable capability. It feels like it can be mixed with my own killing intent to form stronger destruction. Thinking of this, Chen Ang's eyes flickered, his heart moved, and the attribute panel appeared in front of him. Chen Ang. Body, 312 pull, 500. Force, 307 pull, 500. Min, 304 pull, 500. Fine, 300. Extreme, 500. Talent 1. Dead Dragon Arm characteristics. Armor break, dragon muscle twice the strength increase stealing life. Talent 2. Recovering body, blood spring, quick healing. Skills. Tearing claw perfect double strength increase need to improve proficiency, fighting technique, dragon power. Cultivation method. Basic ancient yoga, holy dragon breathing method. It's good, the improvement is not small. Chen Ang nodded in satisfaction. Now, he has the right way of thinking, the right way of breathing. For now, these two are enough for him. Next, you don't need to worry about this, you only need to care about attribute limits and talent promotion. Thinking of this, Chen Ang touched his chin, thoughtfully. After thinking for a moment, Chen Ang immediately sat cross-legged, waved his hand, and various materials appeared in front of him. There is no doubt that they are all materials needed for the promotion of the body of recovery. Originally, Chen Ang was not in a hurry. But now that the materials have been found, the body of recovery can be directly evolved. Thinking of this, Chen Ang no longer hesitated and started to make potions. Chen Ang has already mastered this aspect, but within a few minutes, the promotion potion is ready. Looking at the green potion in front of him, Chen Ang's eyes flickered, and he took it in one mouthful with anticipation. Then, the body begins to boil. The body of recovery has ushered in evolution. Faintly, a pale green light shrouded Chen Ang. This time lasted about a quarter of an hour. When a quarter of an hour passed, the light began to dissipate, and the boiling body began to cool down. Taking a deep breath, Chen Ang opened his eyes, joy flashed in his eyes, and then he felt the changes in his body. Absorptive body. Absorbs damage and bursts out on the next attack. But there is a limit to the absorption. For now, I can only absorb no more than twice the damage of my own strongest burst, otherwise the absorbed damage will be scattered in the body, resulting in self-destruction. But even so, Chen Ang has to say that the absorption body is very powerful. To know that Chen Ang's explosive power is extremely terrifying, coupled with the increase brought by the body of absorption. As long as it is used well, Chen Ang even has the confidence to kill a fourth-order beast with one punch. After feeling this power silently, Chen Ang raised the corners of his mouth and checked the characteristics. If you want to activate it, maybe you can consider how to be beaten. If you get beaten enough and absorb enough damage, you can naturally activate it. Good guy. Seeing this activation method, Chen Ang couldn't help holding his forehead. How is it as strange as the activation method of the previous recovery body's characteristics? The previous one was a binge eater. One is self-abuse. Getting beaten now. Forget it, although it is strange, it is simple after all. Shaking his head, Chen Ang turned to look at others. Just a slight movement in my heart, a reminder appeared in front of my eyes. A body of absorption. Evolutionary route. 2. Evolution route 1. Crazy dragon physique. special talent, you can evolve only when you have the talent of absorbing body and dragon attributes. The required materials are Evolutionary Root 2. Energy Body. The required materials are. Seeing the 2 evolutionary roots of the absorbing body, Chen Ang was stunned, his eyes widened, showing a shocked expression, and there was a faint glimpse in his eyes. Perhaps, this is the reason why the body of recovery is 100% adaptable to me. He was even more surprised when he thought about it like this. Chen Ang never thought that some talents need to have different talents in one to evolve. According to this situation, I am afraid that there will be more unknown talents. But this should be a special evolutionary route. Quantitatively speaking, it is not expected to be much. But I just don't know how the combat power improvement brought about by this special evolutionary route is. The Mad Dragon Physique, and the Energy Body. Chen Ang thought to himself. The Mad Dragon's physique should belong to the combat power, and it has the talent to directly improve the mutation and evolution of the physical attributes. And the Energy Body, not surprisingly, is a normal absorbing body evolution root talent, and its abilities should be roughly the same as the absorbing body. But this also comes, a little tangled, don't know which direction to evolve. Sometimes, knowing too much is not good. Just like now, Chen Ang is more entangled. But if this kind of entanglement is known to others, it is estimated that they will be envious. Forget it, just like the dead dragon arm, whichever material comes first, choose which route to evolve. With a chuckle, Chen Ang didn't bother. After spending a lot of time in this ruin, Chen Ang got up and left. There was no puppet blocking the way when they left, which made Chen Ang much easier. After leaving the ruins, Chen Ang ran fast towards the auction route. A small auction, not far from you, at the fastest speed, you can arrive in about 3 hours. Here's a tip from Goldfinger. Strictly speaking, it is a bit far. Of course, Chen Ang has also been using Goldfinger to look in other directions during this period to avoid missing some treasures. After running wild for about an hour, Chen Ang casually glanced over his head and stopped suddenly, then grinned with an excited smile. Almost missed it. A human talent who died here a long time ago. His space bag has not been corrupted, and there are things you need in it. This is the prompt that pops up in front of you. Chen Ang looked carefully, and sure enough, he found a dark skeleton on the branch of a lush ancient tree. That is to say, there is Goldfinger, otherwise the ghost knows that there is still a bone lying on this place. I don't even know that there is a space bag on the side, and there are still good things in it. And even if he had Goldfinger, if he hadn't subconsciously glanced in this direction, Chen Ang might not have been able to find it. 0.0. Bang! Chen Ang bent his legs and jumped directly from the ground to the branch. Stepping on the branches, Chen Ang came to the corpse to observe. There are cracks in the bones of the abdomen. It should be a talented person who entered the exploration before this secret realm was regarded as the secret realm of the college entrance examination. As a result, he was seriously injured for some reason, which made it too late to leave the secret realm and died here. As for the space bag, Chen Ang quickly discovered it, and immediately took it in his hand and patted the dust on it, and then tapped into his spiritual power. Hey, this is ancient pattern. A look of shock appeared in Chen Ang's eyes. Really ancient. And when Chen Ang took out this ancient pattern and carefully observed it, he was even more shocked. This is the ancient dragon's breath pattern. At this moment, 2 words appeared in Chen Ang's mind. Dragon. In this secret realm, there must be dragons. Otherwise, this ancient pattern cannot be born. In addition to being shocked, Chen Ang continued to search in the space bag. After a while, a diary appeared in Chen Ang's hand. Without any hesitation, Chen Ang immediately flipped through the pages. Page after page. When it came to the last page, Chen Ang stopped and looked carefully at the content above. Gradually, the expression on Chen Ang's face changed from shock, to astonishment, to excitement. It turned out to be this. He was amazed, his eyes darkened. The owner of the diary, a Tier 3 talent, once came to this secret realm by accident to explore. And in a big mountain, part of the wreckage of a giant dragon was found, and this ancient dragon breath pattern was obtained from it. As for the wreckage of the giant dragon, Chen Ang probably knew the details through the description in the diary. It was the power of the sacred dragon spirit recorded in the previous ruins that fell here. I just didn't expect that this talented person would find that place, not to mention the ancient dragon's breath pattern, and finally it was cheaper for me. Most importantly, it was recorded in the diary that there were vicious beasts guarding it. He stepped into it by chance, but was unable to penetrate deeply. After obtaining an ancient dragon breath pattern, he was chased and killed by vicious beasts. Before dying, he recorded everything he knew, hoping that someone who came later would pick it up and take revenge for himself. What was recorded on the last page of the diary was a map. A pair headed to the place where the power of the holy dragon gods fell. This is what excites Chang'e the most. Looking at the distance, it's not too far away. I can go there. Chang'e thought excitedly. Originally, Chang'e felt that the falling power might have been taken away long ago, so he was not in a hurry. And now, the map is in hand. It even got the ancient dragon breath pattern. Chang'e started to get anxious. Phew. Taking a deep breath, Chang'e suppressed the excitement in his heart and put away the diary and the ancient dragon breath pattern. Dragon's breath ancient pattern is also a powerful skill, but unfortunately Chang'e can't learn it at present, or in other words, it is difficult to learn it in a short time. After all, the learning of the tearing claw took a lot of time at the beginning, and in the end, I relied on the remnants of the enlightenment tree to get started quickly. The learning difficulty of dragon breath is almost greater than that of tear claw. It is impossible to learn it in a short time. Next, go to the auction first, then go to the place recorded on the map. Chang'e murmured in his heart and made a decision. After gently jumping off the tree, Chang'e continued to set off in the original direction. Run down. Chang'e quickly arrived at his destination. When he came here, Chang'e was even more shocked by the sight in front of him. There is actually a small station surrounded by a simple fence. About 10 or 20 candidates gathered here, both male and female. Among them, you can also see many tents stationed. Interesting. The corners of Chang'e's mouth twitched, and he walked towards it with a hint of curiosity. Chang'e's appearance made many people look at him. Some smart people frowned slightly after smelling the strong bloody smell on Chang'e's body, and there was a look of fear in their eyes. Others were completely unaware and moved away after a glance. After seeing Chang'e, some people showed a happy expression, and then shouted quickly. Chang'e. Chang'e turned his head to look, and immediately walked away with a faint smile on his face. It's Li Leiyao. After seeing Chang'e, Li Leiyao walked quickly with a happy look on her face. I knew you would definitely come here, and after waiting for a day, I finally waited for you. You're here specifically to wait for me? Chang'e asked in surprise. Li Leiyao nodded. Yeah, after all, I don't have anything to sell or buy, so I just wanted to see if I could meet you here, but I didn't expect it to happen. In this regard, Chang'e laughed and shook his head. A pair of eyes looked around. All because Li Leiyao called out Chang'e's name, and many people showed shock in their eyes. Chang'e, the name is so familiar, is it him? Is it the one who dominated the rankings? Tisk, it doesn't seem to be anything special. Oh, go and say it in front of people. Hey, it's definitely not easy to get the first place. You must know that there was only a special item that appeared yesterday, but that guy's points exceeded 10,000. You should know what this means. It's interesting. Diwan City, a person from a small town, has firmly occupied the first place in the standings, suppressing all those guys in the capital. Ha ha ha, those guys are all arrogant and arrogant. Lord, I remember that there just happened to be one right here. Hey, yes, Fu Zhesheng is here. That guy is not bad, he is crazy, maybe something interesting will happen later. Ha ha ha, that guy is here. Someone looked in one direction and laughed secretly. It was a young man in white. The breath on his body is fierce and his eyes are unruly. At this time, walking towards Chang'e, he obviously heard Chang'e's name and glanced at Chang'e. After looking at Chang'e's ordinary clothes, his eyes flashed with disdain. But then, Fu Zhesheng spoke directly. You are Chang'e. Chang'e looked indifferent. Is something wrong? You got your first special item. Right. Fu Zhesheng grinned, and there was no doubt in his voice. Give me. Chang'e asked with a sneer at the corner of his mouth, looking at the young man in front of him. Why? Why, isn't it easy? The disdain hidden in his eyes emerged, and there was a hint of threat in his voice. Special items are placed in the hands of the weak, but they will lead to death. I will keep them for you. Rather than saving your life, this is for your own good. As he spoke, a playful look appeared in his eyes, said. Strictly speaking, I can even be regarded as your savior. So do you want to consider giving your resources to repay the savior? His breath surged, pressing Chen Ang. But unfortunately, Chen Ang's expression remained unchanged. It's just that Chen Ang didn't have time to speak, but Li Leiyao beside him frowned. It's the first time I've seen such a shameless person. Chen Ang, leave him alone, let's go. She took Chen Ang's hand and wanted to leave. Fu Zhesheng narrowed his eyes flickering coldly. Miss, sometimes it seems that you don't understand the truth of misfortune. Give you a chance, apologize, and you will be safe, otherwise. Otherwise what? Chen Ang turned his head and asked. He looked at Fu Zhesheng calmly. But it was that calm gaze that made Fu Zhesheng subconsciously feel a sense of fear, as if he was not looking at a talented person, but a wild beast, which contained great deterrence. Fu Zhesheng's heart trembled, and then he reacted. Illusion, it's all an illusion. He didn't think that the guy from a small town in front of him could bring him much threat. He even felt humiliated because of his own thoughts. When he was about to open his mouth with a sneer, there were footsteps, and he said indifferently. Brother Fu, and this brother Chen, our gathering place is for the next auction. I hope you two will give me a face. Don't do it here. How? The person who came was a slightly fat existence, Li Leiyao whispered in Chen Ang's ear. Chen Ang, he is LV Yang, and he took the lead in building this gathering place. Hearing this, Chen Ang nodded slightly. Fu Zhesheng and Lu Yang are the top 5 in the standings. But, can't fight here. He looked at Lu Yang and asked. Lu Yang nodded. Chen Ang grinned. But I was angry and didn't want to bear it. Lu Yang frowned and said solemnly. You have to endure if you don't want to. Is it? Chen Ang raised the corners of his mouth. The sound fell instantly. The dead dragon's arm suddenly appeared, and Chen Ang turned back suddenly and swept away with a slap. Fu Zhesheng's eyes widened, only to feel a fatal sense of crisis coming. Without any hesitation, his body turned into a rock. But, boom, under the palm of his hand, Fu Zhesheng's head exploded. The red and white things were sputtered on the spot, and even died on the spot. The chilling scene made everyone around him instantly quiet down, and they looked at the slowly falling body of Fu Zhesheng in disbelief. No one would have thought that Chen Ang would do it without saying a word. But Chen Ang not only started, but also looked back at Lu Yang after he started, and asked calmly. I killed him, so what? What do you want? I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.